At 9:30 and don't be late. About to set it straight. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Word. I'm ready, let's go. Ain't no half stepping, that's the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunter talk sprinkled with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the B, legacy online. 7 and 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepper with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Like Richmond, we on the mission, we full force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk, running back. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Like Richmond, we on the mission, we full force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk. Steppin is the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunter's talk sprinkled with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the B, legacy online. 7 and 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepper with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Like Richmond, we on the mission, we full force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk.
All right, y'all. Ain't no half step with Marcus J is live. We in the building. Getting a little bit of a late start, but it's all right, man. We appreciate it. Steph was just saying y'all rocking with us. So we going to not tease it. We going to just hit the music. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. It's about that time. It's about that time to get. Yeah.
Button your lip, open your ears, strap on your thinking cap. Socially conscious talk that's entertaining with a dash of humor and the top sports stories of the week. It's time for Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J.
Sellers has Jordan. Jordan with 2 seconds to go. Puts it up and scores at the buzzer. Michael Jordan has won it for Chicago. Manning lobs it. Burris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. He hits one deep to right center. That ball is out of here. The Yankees win the pennant.
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J is live. We are in the building. We appreciate y'all. Thank you for rocking with us as we roll with y'all. We appreciate those folks that are checking us out right now on Facebook Live, on YouTube Live, for those folks who are checking out our archives, because you guys continue to rock with us. We will roll with y'all. So as those of you who are watching us on the live stream can see, the gang's all here, so we'll get us all introduced for the first time in a very long time. I will get a comment in before I get the usual suspects in. That's because the comment is from the inspiration of Legacy Internet Radio. Our brother says, first and foremost, shout out to the New York Knicks. We're going to be all right. Steph B with the shoulders out. Peace to cousin. And ain't no half step with Marcus J. Very, very grizzy type of comment. Shout out to Uncle H, who's also checking in. So this is how I get the virtual usual suspects in before I get the live ones. So this brother who you see on the screen, you hear him rock with us on the show because it's his show and mine and Steph's. He is my brother. He is my friend. That's my homie. That's John Rain Green. John Green. What's up, John Green? Yeah, I shall embrace. Yes, man. Are you not? Hey, man, it's good to see you, man. Yeah, yeah. You hot? You hot? Actually, you're not hot. Now you hot. That's what I
Okay.
mean. Thank you, brother. Thank
So for the listeners again, Marcus Magnificence, keeping it the realest,
you.
Emperor of the New Den. How are you,
Yeah.
sir?
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Let's get right to it. Let's get us all in it, then we go have some fun. Of
Yep.
course, making a return after a brief hiatus last week. We was all gone, and now we're all back in. Our sister, your sister, she sits on my right side because she is my right hand. She is my sister, your sister, Steph. B yeah 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 yeah.
Always forward, fellas.
Yeah,
How are
man.
you?
It's good to
How are
see
you,
you.
John? Good to see you
Man,
too.
he alright.
You know,
You know how you do.
I'm
He's
good.
producing right now,
I'm
so I'm gonna be
seeing
nice.
John on his TikTok. I know he alright.
Yeah, John got the dopest TikTok. Y'all,
Look,
yeah, he got the
I'm
dopest
starting
TikTok.
to realize that thirst traps have escaped the 20 somethings and millennials
Oh yeah, oh
and
yeah.
dripped on down into the 40 somethings and 50s.
I'm gonna tell you
I
something.
know a brother right now that is flexing abs on Facebook because the thirst trappist is real.
They out
So
there.
leave my shoulders alone, Greg. No, I'm trying to thirst trap it too.
Oh, hey, ain't nothing wrong. Hey, so we getting some love from Marquita, Miss Marquita Brown. Peace to you, sis. Now, she was checking in and she was saying she couldn't hear. So hopefully you can hear everything now. I got the mics back up. Everything is going. So peace to you and thank you for rocking. So John, Steph, the gang's all here. You guys ready to rock and roll and get into our show?
Sure are.
You know, it's a lot to talk about. We're gonna have a
Fun is
episodes.
happening.
We're gonna have green talk. But the first thing we're gonna do, you know, we often forget people who have been long time listeners of the show know that we do this, but we don't do it quite often. We say socially conscious talk that's entertaining with a dash of humor. We have omitted that last part for a while where we say the top sports stories of the week because that's who we were. That's the DNA of us. So I'm going to play a clip. I want y'all to listen and watch this clip
God.
because there are some wide-ranging opinions on Giannis Antetokounmpo's comments on failure in sports, and we're definitely gonna have some conversation about that. So I'm gonna go ahead and play the clip, and I'm kind of buffering here just a little bit so I can get the computer ready for me to do that. But I'm gonna go ahead and play this clip. I want y'all to take a listen and see what y'all think about this.
Uh, okay, because I'm not that up. You asked me the same question last year, Eric. Okay, do you get a promotion every year on your job? No, right? So every year you work is a failure. Yes or no? No. Every year you work towards something, towards a goal, right? Which is to get a promotion, to be able to take care of your family, to be able, I don't know, provide a house for them or take care of your parents. You work towards a goal. It's not a failure. It's steps to success. You know, and if you've never, I don't want to, I don't want to make it personal. So there's always steps to it. You know, um, Michael Jordan played 15 years, won 6 championship. The other 9 years was a failure. That's what you're telling me. No, I'm asking you a question. Yes or no? Okay, exactly. So why you asking me that question? It's a wrong question. There's no failure in sports. There's good days, bad days. Some days you are able to be successful. Some days you're not. Some days it's your turn. Some days it's not your turn. And that's what sports is about. You don't always win. Some other people's gonna win. And this year somebody else is gonna win. Simple as that. We're gonna come back next year, try to be better, try to build good habits, try to play better, not have a 10-day stretch with playing bad basketball, and hopefully we can win a championship. So 50 years from 1971 to 2021 that we didn't win a championship, it was 50 years of failures? No, it was not. It was steps to it, and we were able to win one. Hopefully we can win another. I didn't want to make it personal because you asked me the same question last year, and last year I was in the right mind space to answer the question back.
All right, y'all. And I have Steph Marcus Shea live from NewDen Legacy Narrator. All right, so you heard the clip, heard Giannis, and we were sitting in here debating like who's gonna go first on this one, and I played it, so I'm gonna go first. Yes. Okay. So basically, thank you. So basically, what we got Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is the superstar forward for the Milwaukee Bucks, the number one seed Milwaukee Bucks, former MVP of the league Giannis Antetokounmpo, former NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks, saying that when asked about this season, could it be considered a failure? And he scoffed at that and basically said that throughout the season, there are different accomplishments that makes it difficult for him to deem it a failure. He was offended at the question, and he made the point of saying that Michael Jordan played 15 seasons and only won 6 chips. Does he consider those other 9 championships, those other 9 seasons as failures?
That's
pretty
correct.
much set,
That's
set
pretty
it
much
up?
what he was
All
saying.
right. Yes, he would. If you ask Michael Jordan, he would tell you that he failed 9 out of the 15 years that he played, because that's what champions do. Now, those folks who had the opinion of, what he said was so great, and I had people tell me that I was being a little too hard, and the fact that he said that you an NBA champion, you a number 1 seed, you just lost to the 8. You didn't just lose, but you lost to the 8 and 5. You can't tell me that when the seeding came out that you didn't expect to win a chip. So if your expectations, and not even just in the playoffs, at the beginning of the season, because we know this is a team that has playoff aspirations. There are teams throughout the league that do not have playoff aspirations because they know they ain't going to make it. I don't think anybody in Oklahoma City was expecting to bring the chip there, but they expected it in Milwaukee. And that was something that I'm sure they talked about in training camp. They certainly talked about it when they had the best record in the league and the number 1 seed. So you mean to tell me that your goal is not to win a chip? If your goal is to win a chip and then you don't win a chip, that's a failure. It's that simple. And those folks who want to make this some sort of indictment on the media asking an unfair question, it's like, dude, you just lost. Of course I get to ask you how you feel about it. Like, what are we talking about here? What really are we talking about here? So if you ask Michael, the easiest way I'll do this, but I'm gonna give it to the floor. New York Knicks fan, been one since the early 80s. I've seen the entirety of Magic and Bird's career. They got drafted in 1979. I've seen all of that, all the way up to the present. I was a Knicks fan in 1985 when Patrick Ewing was drafted. Saw his whole career. 1994, 1999, went to the NBA Finals, did not win. I promise you, we love Patrick Ewing. Yesterday during the game, they showed him on the cameras. New York Knicks fans love this dude. Yes. He's a legend. He's a Hall of Famer. His number 33 is retired in the rafters of Madison Square Garden. If you asked him, did he accomplish the stated goal when he was drafted, he would say no. The stated goal was to win a championship for the first time for the New York Knicks since 1973. He didn't do it. That's a failure. And I think if you ask him, he would tell you overall his career was a great career. Did he reach the goal? Which is pretty much what Giannis was asked. Did you reach the goal for the season? No, that's a failure.
Marcus Mean Johnson.
Hey man,
So-
I'm not about giving
hurting the Gen
participation.
Z and
I'm
millennials.
also the parent of a near 20-year-old who was not okay with every kid getting a trophy,
So,
Okay.
so here
even
we
if
go.
my kid didn't get one.
Those two things, because I'm totally against that. I think those two things are mutually exclusive. What happened in that situation was, don't ask me something stupid and hide your true feelings in a question, right? So what he's trying to say is, yeah, we took the L because you ain't gonna win them all unless you Floyd Mayweather Jr., right? We took the L, right? But failure, you kind of name calling and trying to throw dirt on me, right? So I'm gonna put you in your place, little man. You get a raise, you get a promotion every year, you get a raise every year. So fall back. It happens. Somebody's gonna lose and somebody's gonna win. That is called competition. We're not always gonna win. We'll come back next year and try it again. But watch what you say when you're calling me a failure, because I might fail to get up and slap the shit out you. Right? That's the whole thing. People, you all of these little microaggressions and sub shit that we let go under the rug. Don't talk to me like that. Don't ask me that, because you know what you're saying and you know what you're doing, and you're trying to act like you don't, and you're trying to play on my intelligence because I got a funny little accent and shit. But I know what you're doing. I understand what you're saying. Just fall back, because we could have a problem. That's the side of it. It's obvious, right? Nothing you said was poignant. It's obvious. If you don't win the chip, you're a loser. We said this me and you spoke about it like a week ago or 2 weeks ago whenever we had the show. I'm like, you only got one winner. The rest of y'all's losers. You're all losers, right? Take the L. But his attitude, like I wrote in the text, I said, this dude, I know they call him the Greek freak, but this is the Brooklyn attitude. We don't lose. We learn or we win, right? I don't fail, right? I'm going to keep trying until I make it. Failure only happens when you give up. And he's not giving up. The Bucks ain't giving up. They're not trading him. They're not shutting the team down. They're not moving to another city. They'll be back next year. So again, this asshole with this asshole question trying to get up under this dude needs to not ever be invited back to the press conference, because he asked him the same shit last year. And he said, yo, I wasn't in the mindset.
Maybe if they'd have won last year, he wouldn't have had to ask him. Ain't no have Steppin Marcus, Jay.
Listen,
come on. Finish your point. Let's move on.
Maybe if any team would win, you don't have to ask that.
It's a fair question. It's a fair question.
Listen, it's not a fair question.
Every year it's a fair question.
It's not a fair question in the tone in which the frame it is. You don't say you choose your words correctly. You know your audience. He knows what he was doing. He was throwing a sideways insult at that man, right? And had he got up from the podium and slapped the shit out of him, I would have said, good for him.
Okay, fair
right?
enough.
So watch. T.I. said it best. Better watch what you say to me. Y'all look that song up.
Yeah.
T.I., watch what you say to me, right? So he had wonderful restraint. He used his mental ability to respond to the question, and I think his response was fair in the context of which the question was asked. I won't fail until I stop trying.
Yeah.
I didn't win. I'm a loser, but there's going to be number 31 teams that are losers too.
Which is fine. I'll
right?
ask.
And
I'll
guess
ask
what?
that
I
31
still
too.
and guess what, Mr. Sports guy, I still could buy you and your family twice, and you don't like that because you're a racist prick.
Ain't no have Steppin Marcus. They're live from NewDen Legacy. And it's amazing that you deduced all of that. But go ahead.
That's what it is. Okay, so that's a lie.
That's what it is.
I think that is also. I'm not going to question how a man perceived the question between two men, because I think that's where John's perspective is being how you respect me. I see it a little bit differently. So, yes, if your goal during the NBA playoffs is you are the number 1 seed, you're playing the number 8 seed, you expected to win. So within that bubble, I'm not saying the whole season is a failure, but you did fail to accomplish that thing that the playoffs is all about. You didn't expect to go home. So yes, it's okay to acknowledge we definitely failed in our mission here. I definitely believe that. Is Giannis a failure? No. Do I think that I think it's weird to say Jordan is overall, would Jordan be a failure because he won 6 rings in a 15-year career or whatever. I think that would be crazy. He's not a failure. Maybe Michael Jordan would say those seasons are failed. I don't disagree with you. I think that's the kind of competitor he is. I think we're looking at a different competitor mindset. I do think that we teach people now. And now Giannis was born the year I graduated high school. So let's put it into perspective, right? 1994. And he basically is looking at he is compartmentalizing his season. We clearly had a successful regular season because we ended up the number 1 seed. But I think for him to say that this segment of it was a failure. It was a failure. You didn't when you lost to the number 8 seed. They should have been going home. They did not come there expecting to win. I don't care what they say. There's no way they thought they were going to beat the Bucks. I do think that the job of the sports reporter is to ask questions. And you always know, no different than when Venus and Serena are sitting up there, that they're going to ask those questions in ways that they can push or promote or create they want to dig at you. They want to get you responding. I wish he wasn't so young because I would feel better about being like, wow, okay, I like what that did right there. But I love
have no shame,
no
dear.
shame right now.
And embrace your womanhood
Yes.
in all of its glory.
I thought it was,
have no shame.
I thought it was
that man grown.
Mental acuity. I thought it was masculine as hell. I thought it was beautiful that he checked him in the way he did. I think he made a very good point. This is how you debate someone without giving them an opportunity to really make a response. That question of every year that you don't get a promotion, you're a failure, was spot on. The season wasn't a failure. I think the expectations postseason, that is where the failure came in. You did not expect to go home. So I really don't see it as he took it as, I don't think he took it irrationally personal. I don't. I think he responded in a smart way. I do believe that we try to make failure easy. As someone who works with people in a coaching space, I'm guilty of that often, and trying to help people see beyond the limitations of one loss. But I think that's how people get better, is that you are helping them see, okay, well, in his mind, yeah, we didn't get the national champ. We didn't get a chip. We didn't make it to the next round. But my entire season wasn't a failure. And I, from a coaching perspective, I do understand that, because if my child goes to school the entire time and it is and has a 4.0 GPA, and somebody at the end of the year had a 4.1 and they're the class valedictorian, I'm not necessarily calling my child a failure for that. They didn't there's one element that they didn't get. And I think it was fair for him to point that out. But I also think he needs to accept that in this space, postseason, this was a failure, and people lost money on it. That's how much of a failure it was, because nobody expected the Bucks to be out in the first round.
They know how Steppin, Marcus J, live from NewDen, Legacy Net Radio. John, I'm gonna give you one more opportunity to make a comment.
I just got a question.
I'll take the final word on this one because I want to shift us. So I want to make sure all minds are clear on this topic before we move on. So go ahead and ask your question. I'm gonna close this out and we'll move on.
All right. My question is, somebody find me the clip, right, where they asked one of them white boys, Dirk Nowitzki, Choker Chicken, this, whatever the hell their name is, right?
So
Why be disrespectful?
What? Listen.
Why be disrespectful?
Whatever they
Like,
name.
really, why be
Name is John
disrespectful?
Green.
Listen.
You
whatever
met him?
they
I get
names
the point
is.
you making, but why be disrespectful?
Listen, because I'm a real American, and that's what we do. We
You already
disrespect.
know who you talking
We
to.
disrespect, and we're
I needed,
bigoted.
I needed
me
to
sip
have
my
the
drink.
question on the
Well
record.
made.
We're
Thank you, John Green.
disrespectful and bigoted. That's an American thing.
So
So
your point is well taken in the question.
So the question is, find me the clip where they accused them white boys of being failures. They say it just did. The ball wasn't going in tonight, huh?
It just
It
didn't happen for
it
you
just
this
wasn't
year.
happening for you. You look good in the season, but there are things in what can you guys do to improve? You know, I've never heard them come up. Hey, failure.
Yeah,
Failure.
I think
Wow.
Dog whistles and triggers.
I got you. I think
Okay, John.
I think that's an absolute overstatement. But I think all of our points are all I think the suggestion that white athletes don't get challenged, I think, is an attempt to make a militancy out of
That ain't
something
what I'm
where it's
saying. They
misplaced.
get
It
challenged.
is.
But
It is.
I'm talking about the verbiage.
Okay,
I'm
but
talking about one
if
man
I'm-
to
if I-
I'm
if
talking
I'm
about
talking
one
about
man to another.
specifically in this particular case, I am not going to argue with you on racism in sports and how it's reported because I agree with you. So we don't even have to go there. We don't have to go there. So I'm gonna just tell you, we ain't
Right,
gonna go there.
okay.
For this specific situation, and as I said before, I'm gonna take the final word on this, and we are gonna move on. I thought that the question was fair, considering who we're talking to and what the situation was. When you have a former MVP, when you have a number one seed losing to an 8 that had to play a playing game just to get here, when you talk about a former champion and the expectations that were laid upon that team and the goal that we know was set by the team, I think it is a fair question to ask, how do you feel about this? Do you think this was a failure? I never said, nor did anybody else who has made the points that I've made, in my opinion, based on what I've heard and what I know I've said, no one has suggested that this man or any of his teammates are failures.
Okay,
And
fair.
when you heard me speak of Patrick Ewing, you heard me say very specifically that we as Knicks fans view him and his career favorably. His numbers retired. He got a huge pop yesterday when they put his face on the screen. However, the stated goal when he was drafted as the number one pick out of Georgetown was that he was going to bring a title to Madison Square Garden.
Yes.
And he did not do that. So he failed in that stated goal, just like Giannis and his teammates failed in the stated goal of winning the championship this season.
And
That's all.
Just one thing.
That's all I'm
Marcus,
saying.
I appreciate that you make that point only from the perspective of when you watch, Barkley and Kenny and the guys sitting on the panel talking, that comes up a lot. The legends that didn't get a ring.
Yeah.
And it comes up in NFL as well. It almost hangs over the career.
I'm actually glad you brought this point up, John. I want your opinion on this. Steph, I want yours first. I'm going to extend this because I did have that written down in my notes and you just tapped into it. That's why you're in my right hand. I want to talk a little bit about athletes commentating on other athletes, particularly in the sport that they used to play. And just for the point of accuracy, did I not write that down?
Sure did. Okay.
Did I not write that down?
Okay. In my head.
Yes.
In your head.
Yes.
There you go.
Exactly. And I had it on a sticky that I had been wanting to bring this up for weeks and just never came up. So we're going to talk a little bit about this and then we will shift. I just want to go around this one time. I'll ask you, John, and then I'll take the final word, and then we will, in fact, move on. We're going to talk, have Steph next. Is it a thing with former athletes commentating on their former sports on the current athletes? Is there any shade that we expect? Is there any shade that we see? Because there are those players that have smoke with ex-players that are commentating. KD and Charles Barkley is well documented.
Yes.
Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan got smoked.
Yep.
Because Charles Barkley, as a commentator, reporting on the things that Michael had done, not as a player, but as a GM.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of layers to this, and by all means, go wherever you want to go with this. But I guess what I also want to bring on the table is the authenticity of said former player in reporting in what he sees. For example, the reason why Michael Jordan has smoke with Charles Barkley is because Charles Barkley was very critical of Michael Jordan as a general manager.
Yeah, he was.
And he spoke of his failures. When you talk about people like Kwame Brown, who he drafted and then
Yes,
played
and-
next to and was known to berate. And he ended up washing out of the league and not being what many expect a number one pick to be. Charles Barkley reported on that. Michael Jordan didn't like it. They haven't spoken ever since.
Right.
So I think I've gotten it properly set up. Steph, you up first. John, I want you to comment after her, and then I'll take it home.
Well, first of all, once you go into a position of being, okay, so you go into an HBCU. If you see something going wrong at an HBCU, as someone who does independent journalism, are you not entitled to comment on it? Do you have to give a level of commitment to it where it's above critique? Let's be real. Michael Jordan was a phenomenal player, but not all players are great coaches or owners or leaders. And many of his coworkers, other players, would tell you he was not great at being a good coworker. So a lot of what Barkley was critiquing was real. I think the problem with people like Barkley is how they introduce those things. Or Barkley says, but come on, this is a man who spit on a woman when he was playing. He said all kinds of things. You got to put Barkley in a whole other category. He's also a man who hasn't won a championship. So he hasn't won the chip. So the minute he steps out there to say the types of things that he's saying, he's putting himself in a position. However, when I'm watching the TNT, when I'm watching the commentators on TNT, when I'm watching CBS, any of them, whether it's football or basketball, I think it is their job to make commentary, to point out the things, or to give you insight that they may have from their experience. And I don't think you can really get mad about it. It's not necessarily shade. I think with Barkley, it's just a different level because he's just shady by nature. He's a petty dude. I would say this: if Barkley had underage girls in his past, he would be a Carl. You know what I mean? We would be saying he would be persona non grata. He just happens to be someone who comments that way. Can you really get upset? The only people that can get upset, and I felt this way with KD. KD had every right to feel some way about Barkley. He's accomplished more. And when he was around mound of rebound, he was expected to bring something to the 76ers that he didn't bring. And to your earlier point, it is the chip. I've been a Knicks fan since I was a little girl. Shout out to all my uncles. And gathering at my grandmother's on Thanksgiving. And if there was a Knicks game, and it usually was the Knicks and the Bulls, or it would be the Lakers, and then it would follow up with a Knicks game, like the Celtics or whatever. I've always watched the Knicks. I'm always going to be a diehard Knicks fan. Yes, I'm from Brooklyn. I'll never root for the New Jersey Nets that have relocated. Never in my life. Just won't happen. But what I do see and what I do believe is someone like KD has a right to feel the way he does with how it's presented. And I do think if you are reasonable in your position as a journalist, you can comment without creating offense because you know what it's like to have been on the bench. And that's where I feel like there could be a little more levity and grace. But I mean,
we gonna clown, and John, I think to Steph's point about Charles Barkley, I agree with a lot of it. I appreciate his candor and how blunt he is, and he says what he's thinking. Can that grate on us? We all know that person personally that can grate on us because they say something that might just be a little bit too real or too true.
Yeah.
I think sometimes Charles Barkley delves into that, but there's also something to be said to really not giving a fuck what you think,
and that's him.
And he don't care what you think. So
with Gail, with your girlfriend,
with my girl Gail. Hey Gail, I love Gail King, and I love Chuck too. So anyway, John, jump in here. What's your thoughts on the topic?
Hold on, real quick. Was Chuck a failure because he never got a chip?
Absolutely.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, like I said with Patrick Ewing, their careers are obviously not failures. Their careers are not failures. They're Hall of Famers. They're Hall of Famers. But they failed at that one goal.
Yeah. And it is the monumental goal
It's
for
the
the
one.
league. It absolutely
It's the one. It's the one goal. The individual stuff, great,
It's
great
also
careers.
on the other side, real quick, so John could get in. It's also the reason we talk about the Tom Brady's and the Michael Jordans because they got the chip over and over and over again, and it is the pinnacle.
It is the pinnacle. John, jump in here, bro.
So I've discovered in listening to you guys what the problem is in this whole thing. I'm gonna try to tie it up. You gotta the verbiage, right? Because in your coach, right? I'm a consultant, and I would always explain to people in life. I said, "You feel like you're," because the opposite of success is failure. The opposite of winning is losing.
Right.
So you can call them losers. You really can't call them failures, and I'll explain.
I would agree with that.
Because I tell people who I have consulted, the way you are successful is to find a thing that you would spend money to do and then get somebody to pay you to do that thing. I don't care how much you make. If you're getting paid to do something that you would pay to do, you're a success. You're not a failure. You succeeded. They lost. They're losers. Now, as far as commentators, yeah, if you don't have a chip, you can't open your mouth about somebody who has one or multiple ones. You know why? Because you're not qualified. You are completely unqualified, right? Because Shaq show them all the time. You ain't got one of these, truck. You ain't got one of these.
All the time.
So you really can't. You don't know. You don't know what.
And Kenny got two.
Listen,
Kenny has two.
Kenny got
and
two.
Kenny had a less illustrious career.
You
on
never.
paper.
You never.
And Kevin has a question about that. So Kevin, I see you, and your question's on the screen. I'm gonna introduce your question because you got an outstanding question. So hopefully you still here. John's gonna wrap up his point, and then I'm gonna get to your question.
I really love
Kevin.
that we're spending time on this.
No, I do
thank
too.
You for introducing.
I do too.
So now, right? Again, if you haven't won a chip, you don't know. You haven't held that trophy. They didn't put the champagne on your head. You didn't walk around the town with the expectation of the repeat. You don't know what that kind of pressure is. You don't know what the feeling is like to see the fulfillment of your practices.
You didn't get the
And
parade.
then all of the stuff that comes with it, with that championship. If you don't have it in your soul, if you never experienced it, you can't do it secondhand because you're your friend. And you know the chip is the chip, and it creates a club like the Green Jacket.
Yeah.
At Augustus.
Yeah.
It creates a club. If you don't belong, you don't belong.
That was good, John.
Right?
Just
you don't
nailed
belong,
it,
you don't
John. I
belong.
gotta
was
give you
good.
some-
Yeah,
so
that was
again,
good.
give you one, two
That
on
was
that.
good.
These
Yeah.
guys, these men, we're talking about Chuck, Giannis in that situation, and all these
Any New York Knicks that played during that period of time.
Look, Patrick Ewing,
Starks, Oakley,
all of them. They're not failures. They losers.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the league who didn't win, like the other 30 teams that didn't win, or 29 at the time, whatever it was, right? They all losers.
But what I don't want to
But they
do is
successful as I don't know what.
I don't want to play
because they getting
semantics
paid-
with that.
But it's not
'Cause
semantics.
you don't like
It
the
is-
you don't like
it's-
that
it's-
everybody
it's-
gets a trophy feeling.
It's not a trophy.
It's semantics. You
can't-
know why it's semantics? Because we don't want to call them losers,
That's what they are.
But they
but we
did
don't want to
lose.
call them failures either. And I don't
they
think
didn't
any.
fail.
But I'm
they
not.
lost.
But see, here's the point that those of us who have a problem with what Gianna said, the consistent theme that I'm hearing, nobody's calling these people failures.
You do. When you say you failed,
You failed at the
you know
goal.
who fails?
You failed at a goal.
failures
You
fail.
as a person are not nobody called you a failure, sir.
You did.
But it,
You
Watch
made
your
it.
verbiage.
You made a goal.
Listen,
You didn't reach the goal.
He-
That is a fail.
No,
You
no, no,
failed
no,
at
no,
reaching
no,
the
no,
goal,
no.
but you as a person,
he did reach the
you
goal.
were MVP.
Listen, he did reach the goal. He played in the NBA and making
but
multi-millions dollars.
this is the reason why.
That's the goal.
This is the reason why I call
He didn't win
semantics
the
on it.
chip.
This is the reason why I call
He's a
semantics
loser.
on it. Because when we say you're a loser, it doesn't sound right when you're referring to a Hall of Famer.
But he is.
So the Hall of Fame is a loser.
Hell yeah,
I
he's a
mean,
loser.
But Giannis didn't
lose.
just fail. You
No,
hear
he
how
didn't
crazy that
fail.
sounds?
He did.
You hear how ridiculous that
This
sounds?
is how ridiculous it sounds that you calling the man a failure.
I didn't
because-
call him a failure.
No,
See,
that
that's
he
the point.
is.
That's the
He is.
point.
The point
That's
is
the point that
the point
everybody's
is
missing.
that, but that's not
Your
the point.
goal,
You're calling them a failure.
just because
when you
set a goal
when you say
and
to
you don't reach the goal, that doesn't mean that you as a person is a failure. That means that
Yes,
you
it
didn't reach the
does.
goal. You failed at
The mission.
completing
You
the
feel
mission.
like it's a mission.
Yes.
Okay, so how about this?
Not the person.
Your season was
But you
in-
just called the man
listen,
a
your-
loser.
He
I
is a
think
loser.
what you said is
He's
worse.
a loser.
You called the man a loser.
But
I said
listen,
he failed at a task.
Listen,
lose.
guess what?
How is what
Guess
I said
what?
worse?
I'm gonna tell you why, right? Because I didn't fail. I achieved my goal. I'm sitting on this stage
Yeah.
with your
See,
dumbass asking me
yeah,
questions.
Market is
What
you-
I did was
you
lose.
see
Listen,
the difference, but you
no,
are
here's what
playing
he said.
semantics.
No, here's what he said. Listen
You
to what
are.
he said.
You playing
No,
semantics,
no.
and
Listen
I
to
don't
what
wanna do that.
Giannis said, because you're ignoring what he said, which
No,
was
I
brilliant.
heard exactly what
He said, "This is sports. Somebody's gonna win, and
Yeah,
somebody's
and I think
gonna
it's outrageous when you say you
no,
can't
no,
fail
no,
at sports.
no.
That's the most.
Well,
That's
listen,
the
listen.
most outrageous
Yo, no,
part.
not if you in the league.
Outrageous.
Not if you in the league.
If you set a
Well, but if
goal,
you're hold on.
The
If you
team
are
set the
most
goal.
Losing team in the league, you're failing at playing.
let me get
No,
Kevin. Let me get
the
Kevin.
team is failing.
Let me pause us here because I think that we're not going to understand each other. So we are going to regroup. Let's get
Kevin.
Let's get Kevin's question. Kevin, I hope you're still there with us, bro. And I'm gonna read Grizzly's comment first, and then I'm gonna get Kevin's in because we're going to talk about Kevin's. Grizzly says a lot of cats get into the Hall of Fame off their respective sport that didn't win a chip, which means there are levels to this shit, which is essentially what I'm saying. Thank you, Grizzly, for saying it that way. Kevin says, so when you do get a chip, do you feel that should get you an automatic pass?
Pass at what? At any other winning or losing?
Well,
What specifically? What
he
kind of
doesn't.
pass?
That's his question. But immediately, the first name that comes to mind to me is somebody like Robert Horry. He got 7 chips. Does he mean he goes to the Hall of Fame?
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
Which goes back to Grizzly's point. There is levels to this shit.
There are levels to this. I gotta give it to Grizzly on
Yes.
that one because I
But guess what,
absolutely
though?
would say someone like Robert Horry.
7 chips, not a
No,
Hall of
you're
Fame.
not a Hall
But
of
guess
Fame.
what? Chuck can't say shit to Robert Horry
He
because
can't-
he don't
he
know.
can.
He don't know the
He can't
feeling.
He can on
because
some
Chuck is
things a Hall of
Chuck is a
Famer.
Hall of Famer.
Because
But we
there's
not-
levels
but-
to this
But
shit.
we ain't talk about the Hall of Fame. That's another thing. When we talk about when it's a Hall of Fame interview, then Robert Horry got to shut the fuck up. But when we talk about chips, Chuck got to shut the fuck up.
On that
Yeah,
level.
on that level. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
okay. I'll take that. Yeah.
Do we? I think Bass. Yeah. And Kevin says he's here, and it's a very good debate. He's talking about basketball in this case. So yeah, I'm glad that you're still here, Kevin, because we were going back and forth on this anyway. Obviously, as you know, and I wanted to double dutch your question in, and if the analogy that I made throwing Robert Horry in versus Charles Barkley, if with regards to your question is a fair analogy, let me know that if you disagree and you want to make that more plain, if you're still here, please do that because I really love your question right there. You know what I mean? So when you win a chip, does that make you get an automatic pass? An automatic pass to what? Does that mean you get to just talk shit? Which is the reason why I mentioned Robert Horry. At the end of the bench on all of those,
I saw him
the
the
sixth.
other day, and I was like, "Oh, Robert Horry." It was like
He wasn't the 12. He wasn't the 12 man on those 7.
did.
He was a 6, 7, 8 man.
He
wasn't number 5.
But he did get acknowledgments during the season for his. Okay, for instance, even in that case, when Dennis Rodman was playing the 6th man role, and there was a period of time where he was the 6th man, right?
Most of his career.
Most of his career. Robert Horry can't claim the kind of success that Dennis Rodman can claim.
Because Dennis Rodman got chips in 3 cities.
Not only does he have chips in 3 cities, but Dennis Rodman has been Defensive Player of the Year, Rebound Leader of the Year. It's like, of course he would be
Not
Hall of
only
Fame.
is Dennis Rodman a Hall of Famer, but he is also one of the 75 greatest players ever to play basketball.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
so this
I would
I love
argue
that y'all. I
I
love
would argue that about my dude. I
Grizzly-
love Dennis Rodman.
Grizzly says Hall of Fame is peer recognition, chips are entertainment. Hashtag Tim Donaghy. That's kind of an inside joke. I get it because he's basically saying Tim Donaghy was the NBA ref that went to jail for cheating.
That he did go to jail. I remember that.
So there's
That
a
was
lot.
like the biggest scandal
There's
back
a
then.
lot.
in
There's
the
so
NBA.
many.
Absolutely
There's so
was.
many more that need to go. But again,
He was betting and everything. Donnie, was a mess.
this whole thing, right, comes back around to we gotta compartmentalize the situation. Think about how many people shoot a basketball with an aspiration to be in the NBA.
and never make it.
And think about the 400 so people playing right now, or whatever the number is, right? On a team, right?
Mhm.
Words like failure should not be a part of the dialogue when speaking to these men, right? Find other word. The question is fair. What happened, man? Y'all lost. Tell me about the loss. Tell me about where you can do better. Tell me about what you did wrong. Come at me like that.
So it boils down
That's-
to the semantics for John as well.
and I think
like
and
that.
the only reason I have issue with the semantics of it is because I heard him say it. I heard his voice and his tone, and the response that came off of Giannis let me know that this guy and him and this guy
Got
have a
something.
relationship, and this guy got a problem.
I like the way you tied it together,
Okay.
John, and you will get the last word because I can't top that. You said basically you could have said this, fair question, but you could have said it different. I agree with that. Through everything that I've said in social media and here on the show, that is one point that I have never made that I 100% agree with. You could have asked that question a better way, and you could have not used that word, even though I don't have a problem with that word. You could have not used that word, asked your question, and not been quite as bear poking.
I agree.
And the fact that you said it that way started all of this. I agree with you, John, and thank you
Look
for
at
making
you,
that point.
John.
John getting us there.
John
Look at him.
Green.
Look at him. You know what I mean? Look at him blush. He saw that. I ain't bad in the
I've
eye.
never seen you bat your
I ain't bad in the
eyelash.
eyes. I ain't bad one bit. My brother. And then
someone.
and then Kevin says, to Steph's point, Dennis had done way more than Ori. So
I
we
love
so we
Dennis.
so we agree. Ain't
I
no
love
how Steppin
Dennis.
Marcus J.
I do.
Live from NewDen Legacy in the radio. Look at us. We got to a point of consensus.
I can't believe it.
Look at you, John, and
I'm
Steph,
sick of you already.
and me,
And me.
and me. Yeah. Kevin said that's why I love y'all, man.
The den where Gen X comes to act up.
He's the Kevin loves us, man, and we love you too, man. Thank you,
brother.
thank you, bro.
Yeah.
We appreciate you spending this time with us and rocking.
And it was an excellent question.
and-
Because it really did bring us to that conclusion. that
It did.
Yeah.
Not only did it bring us to the point of consensus. I think that the spirited fun that we had getting there was just as fun as debating the topic, and the fact that we spent that much time on sports when we hadn't. But the other thing is, I think that was one of those kinds of topics that was universal. When we talked about the top sports stories of the week, that's what we were and will continue to be famous for. So thank you, Kevin, for seeing us and acknowledging that. John and Steph, of course, for rocking with yours truly
Knicks!
on it. Ain't no how Steph,
Yes.
Marcus J, live from NewDen
Late
Legacy
game 2 tomorrow.
Internet. Time that I say it tonight. Steph, can I say my phrase?
Please do.
Can I say my phrase?
corny
John,
with
can I
him.
say it? Let us move on. That's gonna get you. Yeah. So we're gonna have a conversation as we move into Steph episodes, and we'll have Green Talk immediately following. But here we are, Steph. Let us get into Steph episodes. This is where you will lead us. The folks at home can see it scrolling on their screen, but you will have the voice who introduces it to our listeners. What you got?
So, I've been watching a lot lately, and I'm excited to hear what you and John think about this. It really is, total discussion. I want to stick to the spirit of why you introduced these segments of us having conversation around these things. And as I've been looking at what's going on with the mass shootings, the mass incarceration rate growing and things like that, I'm starting to go, where is the accountability? What level of accountability do we have? And is our lack of accountability changing our experience as Americans? And so I say it from two perspectives. One, I was having a conversation with a young man who was talking about the incarceration rate for Black people increasing post-pandemic and some of the things that are going on there. And we were looking at where those incarceration rates are increasing. And he was like, they're after us and we can't do anything. And, and he was feeling a way about it. And then yesterday, after the mass shooting over the weekend in Texas, we had the Texas governor come out and basically comment. And instead of saying we are saddened and we, folk, they love the thoughts and prayers. Instead of saying we issue our thoughts and prayers, he was like, 5 illegal immigrants were killed. That was his point, was to point out that this was illegal immigrants killed by an illegal immigrant, which was incorrect. Not every one of those people that were killed were illegal immigrants, but he started speaking in that way, and people from pundits to people on Twitter to other folk were saying, I can't believe he said that. And my immediate thing was, yes, you can. You should. You voted for him. You voted for this man after the things that happened during the Uvalde shooting. You voted for this man knowing that he basically dismissed anything that happened because of Uvalde and created lax gun laws post-Uvalde. And now you're shocked and offended. You've been voting for these people. Now you're shocked and offended. You aren't voting, and you're shocked and offended that Black people are being incarcerated at a certain level. And so my question is, person by person, is our lack of personal accountability killing us in American culture? And very specifically for Black folk, when we start talking about the high rate of incarceration and the way that we're being incarcerated, we're all well aware that right here, not too far from us, we have prisons that are for profit. So that they got places open and ready for us. What level of accountability do we have in putting ourselves in a position in which they can come for us, after us, and we are 13% of the population, but 28% of the representation behind bars? Where does a level of accountability come in so that we can fight off some of these things? And I challenge us, because we've been on air now together, the three of us, in this new iteration of the Den, almost 4 years, 3.5 years or so. We've had listeners say, I don't vote. Voting doesn't change anything. They don't care. They're going to do what they want anyway. And here we are, years after the Trump saga, and we're experiencing things that are hurting our community. So the question is, what level of accountability do we have in the results that we're getting, not just in mass shootings, but in mass incarceration and all those other things? Where do we as individual citizens come into play, and how much of a role do we have in how these things are proceeding? That's what I pose to the group and to the listeners.
So I'll jump in here first. First of all, I want to get a shout out to my brother, the coach, Sean Mears of Twi After Dark Legacy Internet Radio alumni. He was checking in earlier. My brother, we are so happy. He wants to get in so bad. I wish, we're not doing the phones these days, but I told him, by all means, type your comment in, and we'll get it introduced here.
We'll
know,
figure out the phone sooner or later.
yeah, the phones was acting funky, and just in a moment of transparency, the phones was acting Bismarcky style funky, like John was saying, and they just and they just was
Hey,
and I just they frustrated me, and I said, and then with all due respect, we was getting a string of bullshit calls where people was just calling with nonsense and taking up time. So
and not knowing how to work the
not
radio.
knowing how to and just not
Him,
casting aspersions
and
on
I
our,
had a grilled cheese.
yeah, like somebody with weird shit, man. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So if y'all can promise not to call with nonsense, then maybe we'll figure out the phones. But anyway, Coach, we see you, bro. We appreciate you. Hey, I'm proud of you, man. I saw you at the Diamond, by the way. All right. So anyway, accountability, right? People got mad at Bill Cosby and Barack Obama and anybody who came out firmly and said, pull your pants up, cut the bullshit, just be a good person and do the things that you're supposed to do that are right. They said it in their old fogey ways, but at the end of the day, the core of what they were saying is we know better. We do. We have enough examples where not only do we know better, we should be doing better.
Yes.
And to always fall back on what we know and what is legitimate is the oppression that has been bestowed upon every single marginalized community in this country by white supremacy. Not white people, not white individuals, the system of white supremacy. They don't like nobody. They really don't like black people, but they don't like nobody that ain't white. The system, white supremacy. We know what it is. We have organizations in our neighborhoods that we don't support. We have groups that are doing the things that we know would help our people and our children. We don't support it. You know what we do? We chuck the deuces and say, y'all doing a good job. And then we go on about our lives. We got children who go to school and the parents don't know what they doing while they're at school. They don't know what grades they're getting. We got kids that go to school with guns and shoot it up. And we want to blame white people and the police for it. We want to blame white people and the police for the system when we know we're not supposed to have these types of things go on. We need to be the ones policing our own, and we used to do it. We used to have it where the old lady down the street, the grandma, your best friend, would check you and your mama would endorse it. Now, your mama want to fight her for checking you. You bad as hell. And your mama know you bad as hell. And the old lady down the street know you bad as hell. And she checked you because she was being bad as hell. But now your mama wants to fight her. So we have to have our own accountability. I don't want to fucking talk about white people all the damn time. There are times to talk about white people and how they make it harder and how they have blind spots when it comes to privilege, all of the things. And trust me, there's a place for all of that.
Yeah.
There's a place for all of that. Ain't nobody discounting that. You know what? I can walk and chew gum. I can have that conversation and I can have this one too. And right now I'm having this one. Cut the bullshit, black people. We know what the fuck we need to be doing.
Yes.
And we ain't doing it in the interest of laziness, in the interest of blaming everybody except for the motherfucker in the mirror and the one standing behind him who should be raising them. That's what I say about that. John, what you got, bro?
I was watching episode of Good Times. Right? What's the football player name?
Oh, what's the name's husband?
You talking about her husband?
Yeah, what's his name?
Keith.
Keith
Anderson.
All right, so running back.
I'm good, right?
Running
I
back.
be knowing this stuff.
Running back, Heisman Trophy, Keith.
for the Chicago
For the
Bears.
Bears.
He didn't make
Until
it.
JJ,
He came back. Eventually, he got a contract.
yeah, because JJ messed him up at the wedding.
That's right.
Well, JJ didn't mess him up.
He
JJ
tripped over JJ.
He tripped.
over
That
JJ.
was JJ's foolish being just.
And he
No,
was mad
JJ
at
was taking
JJ for like
pictures.
6 episodes. He was mad at JJ.
So here's the deal. Keith
We old.
Keith gets mad. Keith gets mad because he driving a cab and slaps the shit out of Thelma.
I remember that.
Okay. The response to it on the show at the time that got critical acclaim was a heartfelt apology, and Thelma slapped him back. That doesn't work today. It doesn't work today. I brought that up to say we got to stop trying to use old school shit for our new school issues. None of what goes on with these kids in their pants and they $1,000 sneakers and they hours of brain-killing video games have anything to do with the fact that they do not understand what normal society behavior consists of. Where the problem with that is, there's a call millennials or Gen Z or whatever. I think we should just call them the entitled. Right?
Really? Okay.
They really believe that because they deserve. Right? The idea
This is an interest. Go ahead.
the idea of nobody on this planet owes me a damn thing. Not my mother, not my father, not God, not my friend, not the man at the grocery store. Nobody owes me nothing, right? And if I don't get off my ass and go get it, I won't have anything. Is lost on these people. They feel that their existence warrants accolades and assets, and it doesn't. That is the issue. But guess what? It's not a black issue. It's not a black issue. It's an American issue. It has nothing to do with black people or white people. It has everything to do with the economic structure of the country. And parading black people with dark complexion as permanent underclass, right? In order to keep people, like I always say, keep people without dark complexions feeling like they're doing something when they're not doing nothing. And the problem that we're having, the reason Trump was in office and all this stuff and all this divisiveness goes back to the fact that the world is a small place now. So people get to see online how well black people are doing. And the white people's like, wait a minute, they doing good. What you mean? Where's mine? Where's my job at the coal mine? And where's my... And Trump went on, no, don't worry about it. I'm going to give it back. It's the Mexicans and the blacks and the Chinese. Don't worry about it. Y'all still good white people, and the hell with them. Right? So Trump got away from that because for a minute, the cover was off their eyes. The cover were off because of Obama. He's president. Wait a minute. How are blacks the permanent underclass and we got this half white black man in office, but this for sure enough black woman and these little black babies in here? When Obama said Trayvon could have been one of mine, for real. Because if you said that was their third child, it would have been no problem for nobody to accept, except for the people that said that Michelle's a man and all them crazy ass people. Anyway, my point is, all of this stuff is not a black issue. It only is a black issue because they need to make it. They need to keep the billboard up that the blacks are the underclass, but they're not. Black women are some of the most successful and the most educated people in the country. They did a survey. Black men in the home and outside of the home are more present in the lives of their children than any other race in America. How about that? The idea of black men don't take care of their babies is bullshit. Matter of fact, black men go above and beyond where other people go when dealing with their children. They just do it. Something about it. It's something about the stigmatism that was attached to them being black and being absentee fathers, and because of the system's destruction of the black family in the late 60s and 70s, because the black family was the catalyst and the strength behind the civil rights movement, and it's acknowledged in paperwork with the CIA and the federal government that says their goal was to destroy the nuclear black family because that's how things got done. So they did that with all kind of different things, drugs and social programs and all kind of shit, right? It messed up the black family. So now we have a situation where these kids don't have role models, right? Because anybody who was successful ran their ass off to go live with whitey, right? And the only people that got left in the hood was the do-batters, not the do-gooders. And so the children begin to emulate that. Then here comes the rap music, and the rap music was the newspaper for the streets. We was talking good in there, and the white man said, "Wait a minute, that shit's positive. We got to do something." NWA, here we go. And the next thing you know, everything was about a itch and a garden tool and kill and murder, death, kill and 187, right? So when all of this stuff goes on, the secret and the solution to this, and go back to the clown, the ass clown who said what he said about illegal immigrants. Y'all the illegal immigrants. Start with that. That's the first thing. Second thing is, black folk, just get yours. I keep saying it week after week after week. The way we win is for every single person who is melanated in this country, make a decision that you're going to shut the fuck up, mind your business, and get yours. Be the example by being an example. Stop running your mouth and talking about stuff and worrying about other people's stuff. Get yours.
Ain't no how Steph Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. Coach Miz says John is on a roll tonight, Steph. Ain't no how Steph Marcus J. Put a bow on it for us.
I think where John and I consistently put a bow. I didn't wear my bow tonight. But,
yeah.
I think where John and I agree but disagree is I just don't. I have zero time or energy to sit around and talk about how white people created this because we already know. We didn't have to drink it up. You know, they stirred the drink and you didn't have to Jim Jones it. You didn't have to decide that this is how you're going to live. We are now in 2023. If we know that Chesterfield County is which they do, they are using traffic tickets as a way to get free labor, so much so that the ACLU has looked at Virginia, and that's why the Virginia laws changed in the last year and a half, 2 years, because they knew that they were using traffic tickets to incarcerate marginalized people to create a revenue path and also to get free labor. If we know they're doing that, then we have to avoid these things. I don't disagree. Yeah, get yours, but the way to get yours is don't feed the system. If someone is telling me that, okay, this is poisonous, or if I know it's poisonous and I'm sitting back and going, look at these MFers trying to poison me. Yeah. Why am I opening my mouth and saying, can you put it on my tongue? Oh, that didn't sound good, but you get what I'm saying. We all grown here.
That was cool. That was cool.
I don't know what it sounded, but wasn't nothing sounding bad about it. So don't say if I wasn't good.
Don't make me so crazy. But so I don't disagree with you, John. I think this is where you and I started to struggle last time. I don't disagree with you that they've created this system that was intentionally meant to marginalize, disenfranchise, remove us from society. I am just like, I don't expect them to fix it because it's working. What I expect is us to go, okay, I have a right to leave a community. For instance, when I decided to move here, I absolutely was not moving to the city of Richmond because I felt my children deserved a better education. I felt my children, I did not want to worry about my little suburbanite daughter. I didn't want to have to go up to the school and fight a mom who didn't understand that our daughters need to learn how to talk it out. I didn't want to deal with that chick because I'm not that chick. right? So I moved my children where I knew they would be safe, where assimilation wasn't. They don't deserve. They don't have to be the target for other Black folk either. Right. And so when we talk about how Black people left certain communities and they left the bad people behind, why not? I've earned my way out of this. And if you were going to do, I think about, I absolutely hate when white folk use Chicago as a response to mass shootings and everything else, because they don't care. They're only doing it to dismiss what they're doing and focus on us. I absolutely hate it. But then I do go back and say, we have elders living in the city of Chicago that feel uncomfortable walking their street. We allowed King Von to walk around talking about how he was, a killer and a demon. We're not disciplining at the level. And so we're the people that are then exposed to the dangers of our own small community are us. The King Vons of the world weren't going and running and killing white folk. They're staying right there. They're calling it Terror Town, as my friend was telling me. They're calling it, Old Block and all these. They're renaming these communities. You have elder Black people right in them. We have to hold each other accountable instead of just pointing the finger and saying, well, this is what white people created, so this is what we're going to absorb and this is how we're going to behave. No, when do we get to a point of where we're saying, my daughter, for instance, who commutes every day from Jersey City into Brooklyn, and I'm sometimes on the phone with her, and brothers don't have any respect. And you're speaking out of turn to my daughter, and you're speaking to her like she has no value, and then you're getting mad when she doesn't want to respond to that. I'm supposed to blame white boy Joe for that? Now I'm holding you accountable because you chose this in the Brooklyn borough. You chose this. And so I just feel like we're in a space of where we're leaning on let's blame white folk and not fix our shit. And yes, we can do both. Why can't we walk and chew gum, as Marcus referenced earlier? Why can't we say, hey, we understand what you're doing with the system, but also we're not going to give you us? Why is it that it's like we just going, well, this is what it is. So, and the white folk, and I don't care anymore. I don't care because I know they don't care. I don't care because 8 Black women die a day, and it ain't at the hands of white boy Joe. It's not. It's not. And so I do think we have to start to look at a personal accountability, which is my point, is that we're not personally accountable. We're not personally accountable. A few weeks ago, you were like, all right, well, I don't care if y'all don't make money, y'all don't make money. Then okay, so then we just struggle and we just die on the vine and we just rot out. But the fact that and that's fine if that's the feeling, but we can't deny that personal accountability is part of the issue. We can pull up any little statistics here and there, but there is personal accountability that comes into play. And that's all I'm saying.
So you and I are not in disagreement at all. Here's my only issue with anything that you've said just now. Right, here's my only issue, right? A couple of the words you use, some of the phrasing, right? We here's the problem, right? We catch it because it's our community, right? Like you said, nobody's running outside of the community to do anything, but it's not. These things are not happening to people. The things are not happening to Black people because they are Black, because their skin is dark. These are people doing shit that people do. The environment affects the volume, and the response to it and the punishment and so on is affected by white supremacy and racism. I'm not blaming individual white people. I'm not blaming the white majority of America. This is a system that's designed this way, like you said, get free labels, so on and so forth. And if you know about it, you should be able to do something about it. We're in the age of where, like I said, if you're not getting it done in 2023, then you got a problem, right? Forget about everything else. But that does not move racism, white supremacy off the
I'm
table.
not doing
right.
that. I don't want you to think
So
I'm
no,
doing
I
that.
don't. But I'm just saying that in general, so people understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
Now, the thing is, you said something about it being ours. This shit ain't ours.
No,
The
hold on.
problems. No,
I'm
no.
talking about the what the outcomes are. We're dealing with it.
But so guess what? Eight women a day die at the hands. 8 black women a day die at the hands of black men. Right? For the most part, if there's a number in there that isn't, it's too small to even recognize. Right? I don't know how many white women die.
Less.
Right? Less. Right? But guess what?
And I don't care about them.
Right, but
not
no,
to be mean.
But no.
But,
listen,
but
I don't care either. Let me get to the point. Let me get.
Doesn't end up
But
being
let
me.
me get to the point. Right, black men ain't killing them. Those are white men killing white women. So the problem we have is a human condition. It is not a complexion. That's my point. Now, the volume, the increased volume of it within our smaller community is an issue. The reason for the increased volume is, right, we have the same things, but not on the same level, right? Our communities don't look like their communities for the most part. Our space isn't their space. The response from law enforcement isn't the same. The way the law is applied isn't the same. The crimes that they will let a black man get away with, as opposed to the crimes that they won't, the free labor, the drug laws, the things that are white supremacy affect the volume of something that happens in all communities. It's increased.
I'm not saying that that's not the case, but that's where I go right back to my original question: is why isn't personal accountability more important? Because
it absolutely is. It's
John,
pinnacle.
I'm not dismissing that it happens elsewhere. What I'm saying is I'm concerned that it's happening with us. I don't care that 4 white men kill 4 white women. And I'm not saying I don't care about white people. I'm saying it from a perspective of that's not happening in my community. And when it's 8 and when it's like, I don't want to be the number 1 in that category, right? Because as a black woman, then that means the statistic for me is higher. As a black man, the statistic for you to experience incarceration is higher. If you know that certain things are being targeted at us, they're not making black men kill black women. They're not doing that. They're not doing that.
No.
Hold on. And at the end of the day, don't we want internal resolution? How do we get better without saying, well, they do it too? But it's kind of like the whole thing where it's like, well, Harvey Weinstein's doing it. Why can't Robert Kelly?
No, that's
what are we doing?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying a tit for tat. None of it makes it right. What I'm saying is we got to stop blaming complexion for it, because it's not the complexion. I'm
not saying it's happening because of complexion. What is? I think that's where we got lost last time. What I'm saying is I want to deal with what's happening in our community. And the fact that it's happening in our community is not me saying that it doesn't happen elsewhere. I'm saying that I am concerned about it here, because white folk aren't asking me to come in and fix it. And we often are like, well, because white people. No, they're not going to come fix it. What do we do for personal accountability?
And when they say because of white people, that's piss poor messaging. They missing the mark. They're way off mark with that. It's nothing to do with white people. It has to do with a corrupt criminal justice system, and it has to do with crime and punishment. It has to do with affordable housing. It has to do with redlining. It has to do with all of these things that we talk about ad nauseum that adversely affect the black community, that takes things that happen all over the place and cause the volume to increase. Crime is directly related to lack of resources, is also related to volume of people in a confined space. You got too many.
I don't disagree with that.
So
what I still will go back to, and I will hang my hat on every single time, is until those things are not changing at a rapid pace.
They're not going to change.
Not going
this
to
goes
change.
back to what I say. You got to change you.
That's my. So then the question is, where's the personal accountability?
And this is what I say when I say shut up and get your shit right. See, people run around running their mouth about talking about stuff. Shut up and do something. You talking about somebody telling me about what's going on is not changing what's going on. Because guess what you telling me? You telling me what everybody know. You telling me this is America. Like Childish Gambino. This is America. No shit. No shit. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about
My
it?
point.
What are you? And the only thing
And the you to me is not, hey, Joe White man, it's your fault too.
Nah,
and so
Nah,
and
I'm
so
not
for
saying that
you
at
and
all.
I, who have a certain level of common sense, right? And we're running in a common line and understanding those things. I think what happens is when we shift or when we start to introduce, well, this is not a black issue because it happens in white communities too. You're going to have people who don't process well. Because everybody, you've said many times, oh, people are stupid. You're gonna have the people who don't process well that go, well, King Von wasn't a problem. Well, Chief Keef and his craziness is not an issue. Well, these gangs and because this is what I understand about gangs in Chicago. Cops understand how to stop it, but they're not going to because we're handling their problem.
It makes money
Just
though.
letting people take each other out,
It
right?
makes
And so when we start to say, well, it's because, yes, we understand that there's the underlying infrastructure. We understand that. If there was one man that was abusing 18 women, I'm not going to be the 19th woman to walk in and say, you know what? It's because it's the structure. No, I'm going to be the first woman to walk in and say, this is bullshit. Look what he's doing, y'all. We need to talk about this. And he might hate me enough to want to kill me. But guess what? I'm not going to say, well, it's the structure of the community. And that's where I feel like we make those of us who are educated enough, we create the problem by saying, well, this isn't a black problem. This is an everybody problem. Don't disagree. We live in a violent society. The people who colonized it or settled it, they created violence the minute they arrived. I don't care about them.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't care about
I
them.
think
I got the answer to that.
I think where we're disconnecting, but not really disconnecting, is the point about it being about us. Like we can have the conversation about the oppression and how it's been made to be difficult for us and how we got here and all of that stuff. Like we know all of that. Like we know all of that. But I think where we often disconnect is we don't have a consensus around where we have a baseline and where we go from that baseline.
Yeah.
Because we know how we've been raised, just generation, not us as individuals, but even those who weren't raised by or raised in certain ways, like people in our general age group, us Gen Xers, like we understand those was raised by grandparents, those was raised by parents, those was raised in single homes, those who had to do it on their own. Like we understand enough because we have interacted with people from each of those types of backgrounds. We are old enough to be able to see how those folks may have turned out.
Yeah.
Respectfully. So having said that, we don't have to talk about white people in this conversation. Let's put them out of the conversation. I don't want to talk about 400 years of oppression. I don't want to talk about how white supremacy has caused us. I don't want to talk about none of that shit at all. Here. I don't want to talk about none of that. What I want to talk about is black people. How you going to be accountable for what you know is right? For what you know is what you should be doing, based upon what we know is the commonality of our circumstance. We know. What you gonna do? Are you going to allow your children to function this way when I know you know better? Because I know who raised you. I know how you was raised. We weren't raised the same, but I seen your grandma. Like I know. Why are you allowing certain things? Why are you allowing certain things? We can talk about other communities and how we all play into it. I don't want to steal your thunder, but I feel like this is where we need to be with regards to this conversation. Us. We allow too much. You know why? Because us Gen Xers was the first generation where certain kind of struggles wasn't like how our parents was.
I agree.
And our
I say that to
generation,
Michelle all the time.
our
We got a
generation,
little lazy.
the from you know the 66, 67, 68 group through about 82. So I'll say 68 to 82. That group, us, the prime years of Gen X. We was raised different. We are the generation where we're a little bit of hybrid of the old school
Analog and digital.
and we walked over to the TV to turn the channel, but yet we can't put this shit down either. Cell phones, right? You know what I'm saying? So
I feel judged, Mark. I feel judged, and you're right.
We are judged, not just you.
I feel it, and I agree.
So I think it's important for us to take everybody else out of this conversation except for us. John, make your point. I want to get us out of here so that we can get the green talk. Make a very quick point. Steph,
I'm good. Thank you, both of you.
You need to tie it together when he's done. Are you good?
We'll see.
All right.
Okay.
Make a point quick. Steph, tie it together. Let's move on to green talk.
Here's my issue.
Because we got a comment and she said good morning. So
we got it.
We got to get good morning in first, and then you make your point.
Here's our problem.
Well, let's address her first, and let's do that. So we talking about our sister.
Love her.
She said good morning. So we gonna look in the camera as we do every single week, and we say good morning, Sue. Peace to you.
I love Sue.
Yeah.
So RuPaul Drag Race coming to town. Please be Monday. And that's it.
I saw Sue like 3 weeks ago, and I hope to see her soon.
I want to go.
I try to type.
I think we'd have fun.
Okay. So
can I go?
I'll ask.
No.
I'll ask Sue.
No.
I decide.
I just did.
For you, you can't come.
I'm telling you, you can't go.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with my pink Bluetooth and my fist in the air. Yeah. Say something.
You don't need no fist in the air.
Say something.
Drag race.
Say something.
Anyway, so let me get to my point.
I don't care who says something. You don't want it with me.
I don't.
Not on this.
I fundamentally, I don't disagree with either of you. But here's the issue, right? And I've said this before, but I haven't said it recently. We are playing their game by their rules. We're using their language and we are promoting what they are selling by identifying. It's like black on black crime, right? By identifying, we are identifying this as soon as we start saying, well, the automatic response is, well, white, because that's the spin. And as long as that spin is going, this whole situation is going to go, because that's how this country was built. The black, the white, the black, the white, right? We got to get away from the black. What we got to do is just say, if you want to say our community, our family, our block, this block, where we live, who we are, that's fine.
That's
take the black out of it, because it has nothing to do with complexion. The only part of it that has anything to do with complexion is the volume and inconsistency of resources allotted. Has everything to do with complexion. But what we're dealing with behaviors that are 100% American and based on the violence, ignorance, and evil that established this place, right? It is the fruit of the seed that grew the tree, that have the fruit. That is it. It's 100% American. And my only thing is, let's stop talking about it like it's black people. It's all people. We got a high volume. Because we know why. And it's enough of us who know better to do better. But again, the problem comes around is there's going to be a loudmouth who they're going to give a platform to start talking about it and making it about black people. Like you say, oh, the white man, the no, it ain't that. What it is it's American. It's gun violence. Why? Because there's more guns than people in this country, right? Why is it a black problem? Because the news said so. Not because it is, because the news says so. So let's get off of this identifying these dog whistles and bullet points and that, because it ain't got nothing to do with black. It got something to do with a messed up mentality that people need to deal with. And my suggestion, and my opinion, is, to me, is the simplest and the realest. Gun violence, we need registrations and insurance like cars for guns. Same difference. Everybody personally accountable. Either you getting yours or you not, right? And if you losing, if you're not getting no money, that's your fault. You can't blame nobody else. But again, the volume we can definitely attribute to the system.
Yeah, I think we totally get off course when we start talking, because I don't talk about black on black crime. That's not really where I focus. I really think that ultimately what I talk about is accountability within the communities that we live in. Most of us live in proximity to one another. And I think it's really odd and weird to think that we're going to resolve the things that are about our people. I don't care about their gun violence. That we already acknowledge they have it. I care about what's happening to us. And so I think to act like, it's innocuous because we're afraid to talk about us becomes problematic in personal accountability. And I think to assume that, a conversation about us is a dismissal of that it's occurring anywhere else, that's not what it is. We acknowledge that it's occurring anywhere else. They're dealing with their shit. Why can't we deal with ours without feeling like it's saying that we're the only ones? I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is, where does personal accountability come into play in the communities in which we live? And 94% of the communities in the United States of America they lack cultural diversity. They are of one shade. They tend to be, and so they're going to deal with what they're dealing with out there in West Virginia. If they want to talk about incest and everything else, cool. Y'all deal with that. Over here, my concern is my daughter walking through communities that reflect her and wondering how we resolve our issues, because yes, they are reflective of America, but what's directly impacting us is impacting us. And that's all I want to talk about.
Hey, Steppin, Marcus J, live from NewDen, Legacy Internet Radio. That was spirited. Like, y'all, when you mentioned earlier stuff, we doing this almost 4 years together, right? Can't you feel we have a good show?
I can.
Like when you're in it, you can feel
and
it, right?
And I like that we don't always agree.
Yeah.
I think it's helpful for people to see that, to John's greater point, that we're not a monolith. And we do see things very differently, and there are different approaches. There's Malcolm and there's Malcolm and there's Martin, right? And so we do see things differently, and I love when we get into the dialogues like this. Thank you, John.
Steppin, Marcus J, live from NewDen, Legacy Internet Radio. Perfect opportunity to transition into Green Talk. So, John, you want to talk about currency? Let's get it.
Yeah. Well, it's coming. It's here. It's here, right? And a lot of people, especially if y'all out there, if you're listening, please start your questions now on the text feed so I can answer them about what's going on with this new federal payment method, right? If you're doing your taxes, your tax return is going to come through FedPay. If you get Social Security or any kind of government benefit, it's going to come through FedPay. If you need to pay something to the government, it's going to come through FedPay. If you get a mortgage or a grant from the government, it's going to come through FedPay. And the whole idea of it is they need to eliminate paper money. The reason they need to eliminate paper money is because there's so much of it floating around elsewhere that we don't even have conditions. It's billions, if not trillions of it in the Middle East, just floating around. Nothing. People got briefcases full of money all over the place. US that $100 bills. So I I know the Pentagon lost 3 trillion at 9/11. Then they said it was 1.5 trillion or whatever. They lost that. They don't know where that is. I'm sure that's in the Middle East. But my point is, we need to understand what's going on with this and with the questions. And what I will just let everybody know is, it's not a cryptocurrency, although it's a blockchain method, right? That they're going to use to structureize the way people spend money and way people get money. They're not going to destroy your relationship with your bank, and you're not going to have to run through the federal government to make your deposit or to pay your bills. If you have a monthly thing, most people do now, right? Most people have paperless billing, right? And they thing come and they got a card or a bank account attached to it, and the bill gets paid every month. That's how most people in America get down right now. People who can pay their bills. That's how they get down, right? And that's what's going on. That's gonna go to a whole nother level with this whole new pay system, where it's going to be much more prominent than it is now, but it's not going to interrupt what you have going on. You're not going to have to turn in your credit card or your bank card or anything like that. All of these misconceptions that people have about it, it's just going to be like, my, maybe not my grandson, but my great grandson, if I'm blessed to have one, will never spend a paper dollar in this country. Right. And that's where we're going to. So my thing is, we gotta stop. Like y'all said, I love TikTok. I love social media. I used to love political news. I used to watch MSNBC, CNN, and Fox just because I used to love it. But it got to a point to where I was listening to it and I was like, yo, this shit is trash. Right. Because these people are talking dumb shit. At a certain point, it just gets stupid because you realize that Disney, or Time Warner owns all the shit anyway, and they have the same messaging because they some rich white folks. Again, sorry about the way, but that's what they are. And they got their messaging, they got it on point, and they're gonna keep it going so they can keep their money. Right? So we gotta learn how to navigate through these things and deal with these things. I'm hoping that some of the audience have questions about it, or have heard something, maybe know something I don't know about it, and bring it in so we could deal with it, because it's here. It's happening. And I'm probably one of the good things that's going to happen behind this. I believe, but I'm not 100% sure. I believe that is going to begin the destruction of the IRS, because once we have the full payment method digitized, we don't need them. We don't need them to do anything, because your taxes is, or people do the 1040 form online as it is right now. So, and with AI, we damn sure don't need them, right? So there'll be no mistakes on your check. Matter of fact, at some point it'd be no point of a tax return, because if you fill it out correctly from the beginning, they will only take the allotted taxes out. They won't take more, and you'll just have your money. Thoughts?
Well, I honestly can't see as far in the future to reference our children and grandchildren. So it's hard for me to see that far in advance. It's hard for me to see a world where there won't be paperbacks. However, I agree that there's absolutely something to what you're saying, because we are already seeing various methods of payment being available to us now, from going from a credit card to a debit card, going from a debit card to just tapping it now. You don't got to swipe it. So, there is absolutely something to the change there. Now, things like digital payments and cryptocurrency, I immerse myself in that quite deeply. over the last few years to the point where before you all came along, I was doing regular shows on Bitcoin, regularly, like 5 years ago. So I know a little bit about that, and my confidence in that being a viable option has waned and subsided in the few years since I was initially excited and introduced to it. Having said that, I do think there's merit to what you're saying, but I don't think there'll come a time where there won't be paperbacks. Certainly not in our children or in our lifetime or our children's lifetime, whether it be in our great grandchildren's lifetime. I can't conceptualize that far ahead. So I don't want to say anything about that because I honestly, man, please. My daughter's 20. I can't even imagine being a grandfather yet.
Oh my God.
So, just being real talk, just being real talk. But I'm not discounting what you're saying. I want to be clear on that. Not discounting what you're saying. All I'm saying is I can't see a world where we're not using paperbacks on some level. Now, the devil's advocate would say that 10, 15 years ago, we said the same thing about music. We said the same thing about, I can't believe I don't have a cassette. I can't believe I don't have a DVD.
or CD.
Now they're selling cars where you can't put an 8-track cassette or DVD in it no more. If you don't have a smartphone, then you asked out. So, as I'm talking myself through this, as you can see, I'm talking myself through this. The possibility of that being real is real. Can I see it from the perspective of life that I've lived and what I project to continue living? I don't see in the very near future us not having paper, but I won't say that it ain't possible because of the other areas of technology that I have seen change in front of me.
In 2035, they're going to bring the production of gas cars almost to a halt. Right? So at some point, there's not going to be gas cars. Well, they'll have them, but they'll be a novelty. There'll be such a small number that it won't be a point to talk about. There's a significant amount of places right now in this country that do not accept cash. Right? You cannot check your bag at the airport with cash. They will tell you to take your cash to a machine, put it in, buy a card, and then come back and use that card to check your bag. Right? There are signs up in establishments, no cash, no cash. Right? People do personal transactions through Cash App and Zelle now. People don't hand cash to each other. You go to the club and they want $10 to get in the club, Cash App. No, yeah. If you pull out some money, they might take it, but you ain't gonna get no change.
There are people who will tell you pay with cash, no change.
Right.
McDonald's.
So
McDonald's.
So
when I get coffee in the morning, McDonald's.
No change.
For small amounts, nah.
So
bills, yeah, but small amounts, nah.
So again,
and it can only
this
grow.
This is what and check it out. It's happening now. We're closer to it. You not being able to see it is because you're the forest in the trees. You're the tree in the forest, right? And I remember when I moved here, when I moved to Richmond, right? Shout out to my muse for moving to Richmond. I used to walk around with money cash in my pocket in a rubber band because that's how I was used to, dealing with large cash transactions when I was renting luxury cars and apartments. And I would take my cash out, take the rubber band off, and pay for stuff like all the time. and she was
Live in
like,
New York if you John.
she was like, what are you doing? Like, we go out with family and friends, and she'd be like,
You look like a drug dealer.
yeah, it's just so embarrassing. Right now, 5 years later, I keep maybe a 10 or a 20 somewhere deep in my wallet. Maybe.
So
all I do is cards. And I tell people, use credit cards, not debit. Debit is dumb. Use credit cards for everything because you get at least a penny for every dollar you spend.
but
Why
I
are you
also-
throwing money away?
I also think we shouldn't dismiss the fact that some people can qualify for a credit card. We need to not dismiss that and put themselves in a position.
They got
even if they have to
they
get
got
a
secure
secured
card. Yeah, get
a
it.
So you might want to tell them
Open
that.
sky. Open sky. Open sky. Anywhere from 200 to whatever the maximum is. Send them the money. They send you a visa. It's secured. You good. Bow. And the penny back on the dollar. Right? Stop it with the debit cards. And again, you can keep trying to use the cash if you want to, but that's going away. That's going away. It's going fast.
My only statement about this, because I know which you're going to try to move forward, is that what I think needs to be taken from them that's ironic, because what you're talking about is going to impact the Black community. So I just want you to understand that, right? It's important.
Yeah.
We on my topic, we were kind of dismissing it, but this is my point. This is my point. So,
but here's the thing: it's gonna affect what we call the Black community, but guess what? It's also gonna affect
the poor
the
people.
Ozarks.
Yeah, sure, poor people, absolutely, absolutely.
And it's a lot more of them than us.
Absolutely. However, what this will do to the American spending economy, we spend more than the Ozarks, right?
And they're gonna make it available for us.
Only way that they will allow some grace is because if they see a downturn in the economic productivity and getting in revenue, because we spend cash.
That's why they're gonna send us those Fed cards.
That's the only way. And so
the Fed cards coming.
I'm a person that often believes that sometimes when we talk about things in advance and we don't have real details, it sounds conspiracy oriented and it pushes people away. However, I don't disagree that they would create a system like that because it's control mechanisms. And that is ultimately what people need to understand, is that when the government is creating things, it's significant when the government is creating systems. The conversation that starts the entire process is about controlling the masses. It's about how do we maintain control, we the government, right? Or how do we make sure the people don't get out of hand? So I have no doubt that what you're talking about is on the horizon. Do I think it's as quickly as you say? Maybe not. I don't know. I'm like Marcus. I can't imagine being anybody's grandma, which, by the way, my kids, I'm putting it on record right now. I will not be grandma. I will be Duchess. Just let's go ahead and put it on film.
Grandma.
Or record.
Grandma.
Duchess, right?
Big Mama.
But
MAW.
said that we're gonna call you Sugar Mama. Something that doesn't fit me.
It ain't gonna be no me moms or none of that bullshit. You gonna
Duchess.
be
Big
Nana.
Mama. I'm officially Pop Pop.
I'm good with it.
It's cool.
I'm Pop Pop to my grandson and my other grandchildren, who my stepdaughter children. I'm Grandpa John.
You are not Catherine Chancellor.
I'm the Duchess.
She got called Duchess.
I know. I'm gonna be Duchess. I promise you. And then if they shorten it and call me Ducky or something, I don't think that's.
You'll go with that.
I will. Okay. But so I can't really picture.
Shucky ducky quack quack.
Right. I can't picture what's gonna that far down the line, but I don't disagree with you. And what people need to take into account in these conversations is the government always wants to be in a position of control. And so this would not be unusual. Every single iteration of currency that we currently see has to be approved by the government, whether it's the tap card, as Marcus says, or whatever. This all has to be approved by the federal government. They don't just get to implement it. So it's worth paying attention to. But I will also say it's very important that before that all happens, folks, start to understand your money.
Ain't no hashtag Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy in their radio. Grizzly says Duchess with the shoulders out. Hashtag
I think
hashtag hide your auntie.
hide your uncle and your granddaddy.
John, I'm gonna give you the final.
You a mess,
I'm gonna give you the final word on here. Make it quick because I got one more
I gotta say,
topic
Grizz
before.
might have a shoulder kink.
Yeah, I think he
Call your
does.
wife and find
Make
out.
make this answer this quick. There's two questions here that are similar, so I'm gonna give them to you. One more quick topic that we're gonna go around the room really quick on because we're getting towards the end of the show. So I want to try to speed trap our way through the final stages of the show. So let's see. Sue says they will never make that simple, John. And Uncle H says, John, what happens if the grid crashes? Address both of them real quick. Crashes, right. What will happen if the grid crashes? So address them both, and then I will give us our final topic that we will go one round around with no back and forth, just one round around. Then we'll move towards the end.
All right, quick thing for Sue. Sue, what you're not realizing, the same thing I said to Marcus, you guys don't see it because y'all a tree in the forest, but you're in the forest. It's already here. It's already here. And you don't think it part of this was COVID, right? They wanted to see how well they can get people to get in line and do as they told. And it seemed like it worked pretty easy. So if they say if they put out if the government, let's say Joe Biden runs, he's running, right? Let's say he gets reelected and he comes on and says in 2 years from now, we're going to a cashless society. There's going to be riff and talk and this and that, but ain't nobody going to do nothing about it? Nobody's going to do nothing about it. It's just going to happen. And you're going to take your money, you're going to put it in the bank, you're going to load up your prepaid cards, or you're going to do like people move to Kenya or Dominican Republic or whatever, get out, all the same stuff people did with the vaccine. People didn't want to get the vaccine. Oh, by the way, now they say that the vaccine does infect your DNA, and they said it wouldn't do that. So now it's a class action lawsuit against Pfizer. That's another topic. But this goes back to some Kanye stuff, because I'm going to tell you what not started this, but what put the battery in the back of this whole thing. OnlyFans. The government saw people making all kinds of money online. And they said, wait a minute, there's no regulation. This Cash App and this Zelle and these tokens and all this kind of stuff, these people is getting tens of thousands of dollars a week doing this stuff. The government said, no, we can't have these kind of transactions, one, and not tax it, and two, not be able to put a hand on it. We can't find the target audience's spending pattern so that we can create our commercials to get you to spend, especially in black folks, because we 12 to 15% of the population, but we are a third of the economy at the same time while being 24% of the incarcerated, which makes it more like 40% of the economy when you think about it per capita. Do math. Stay with me, folks. Stay in school. We got to understand, and for what was Uncle H, right?
Yep.
Your thing is the grid won't crash because part of blockchain is it's running through your computer. You don't know that, but the government is taking up space in your computer. What do you think the World Wide Web was meant to be? They don't need to have in the cloud. They don't need to have one place locked down. When all transactions are moving rapidly, people make money with crypto mining right now, right? As transactions go through, they pull little pieces of a penny off of every transaction, and people make money like that just having their computer on all day, right? I got these two giant computers right here, Marcus. See two giant, yeah, okay? People make money all day like this. So the grid, there's not a grid to fail, right? Power goes down, there's immediate backup power. One computer, one network goes down, all the transactions are moving through all of the world's computers at the same time. So what would have to happen is a catastrophic dinosaur killing type event, and the whole thing goes down, but then it won't matter anyway. And we're not talking about cashless society around the world, people are still going to be spending cash in the Caribbean and different places like that. I'm talking about in the United States of America. I believe sincerely that we're all going to be alive to see the day where ain't no place going to take your cash.
Ain't no hashtag Marcus share live from NewDen Legacy and that radio. Final thing we'll get to tonight before we get into our moment in history, our rants, our closings, and search for missing children is Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson. Now, this is one where instinctively we would want to spend more time on. If we had introduced this earlier, we probably would have, but we don't actually have the time. So, John, you up first. Steph, you will follow. I will close us out as I shift us towards the end and closing. Don Lemon was fired by CNN last week on the same day that Tucker Carlson was fired by Fox News. The way that the news was disseminated was different. They made it seem like Tucker Carlson and Fox News mutually agreed to walk away from each other, while Don Lemon, of course, was fired by CNN. This is a moment where I will kind of agree with John with regards to the messaging and with there being a level of nonsense in the way that that information is disseminated. I tip my own hand on where I might go when it's my turn to speak on the topic. But John, lead us off. And this is one, let's just go around the table on this one quick in the interest of time because we're getting close to time. Let's give us our quick thoughts on this, and then let's take it home. John, you up first. What you got on Don Lemon leaving CNN and Tucker Carlson leaving Fox News?
Listen, both of these guys are good. They're probably going to make more money being away from the network and not having the restrictions. They've built their platform over the years of doing what they do to have an audience that's large enough to keep them in the millions of dollars each year through sponsorship and through just money. Like I know people that have podcasts and people just, they have like maybe 10,000 viewers and they send them $1 and $2 every day. Add that up, y'all. Every day. And they sit up and talk about washcloth versus scrubbies and dumb shit. So, yeah, Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon are going to be all right. And if you don't believe me, look for the interview. I don't know where he was going, but somebody asked Don Lemon, so Don Lemon, what's next for you? He was like, I'm going on vacation with this good-looking man right here. He was holding his white man's hand. He said, I'm going on vacation with this man right here, and we're going to the world, and I'm so good. And he meant it. That's the one time he said some shit that I 1,000% believed what he was saying, right? And look, Tucker Carlson owns a something that needs to be said, and I have to give him his props where it's due. He's the only person to be fired by all of the major news networks. Everybody has fired Tucker Carlson, right? So kudos to Tucker. Kudos to Tucker. Congratulations to Don. Now you're not restricted. You can say what you want, when you want, how you feel. You can open up a whole new audience. I applaud you, sir, in your identity and how you identify and what you represent as a unique individual. I ain't coming to a party if you invite me. I ain't in your group, but I do applaud you and how you handle yourself. You do well. You do well, and I think you're gonna do great things. And Tucker, good to you too. That's how I feel about it.
Ain't no hashtag Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy and that radio. Steph, what you got on the dismissals of Don Lemon at CNN and Tucker Carlson at Fox?
I always talk to people about the perils of corporate America. And I think what's really interesting here, that Carlson made this organization, this corporation, a ton of money as their number one. And during that period of time, they co-signed on everything. It just goes to show you, it doesn't matter what you look like. Corporate America is not loyal, because the minute you put them in any kind of jeopardy, and this should be a sign for everyone, be careful of how much you'll sacrifice yourself for the corporate mantra or for the corporate brand. What's that?
As Biggie said, Your moms have set that ass up properly gassed up. Money ain't loyal.
No, it's not. And so you have corporate America. They made a decision after they paid this almost $800 million settlement that they were done with this, and they didn't care enough. And I think people should have noticed that it doesn't. If you're working and making, you're bringing in, if you're making $50,000-$60,000 a year, you're probably your productivity is probably 50% more than that. So you double your income. That's what you're making the company at a minimum. And they don't care enough when they're tired or when they are hurting or when they are exposed by you. They will get rid of you. They don't need to give you a 2-week notice. My problem with the firing of Don Lemon was that CNN is making a push to try to grab some of the Fox audience. They know that it makes them money. And it was opportune. It just made sense. Again, corporate America, it made sense. They're firing Tucker today. We can surely get away with firing Don. He's not as big. But the problem with it is you fired him after he was having a very vigorous back and forth with an Indian American man that was telling a black man what the black people of America should be feeling about their experience. And so my perception is it makes CNN look suspect. Fox, yeah, they're going to feel the hit, but they'll bounce back because where else would people go for their lies in that particular genre? I mean, sure, they could go to Newsmax, but Newsmax doesn't have the national coverage. Ultimately, what I hope for Don Lemon, I'd like to see him link up with Chris Cuomo on News Nation, and they have a good little show. But these are all of these anchors. They are they're entertainers. They're talent for the agencies and the networks that they work for. This happens all the time. We have a local anchor that everybody loves right here that decided to leave NBC 12, and this is what happens in the news business. I just think it's very interesting that the irony of why these two people got let go. Tucker, because all of a sudden he was impacting the bottom line, but they were fine with him when he was feeding primarily white America a bunch of lies. Don, when he decided to be truthful about the experiences of Black America. Very, very different, but the same. And Don was on the right side of it. When you have someone who's Indian American telling us that the Second Amendment rights were for us and saved us, which is BS, and he was correcting it, and their immediate response was, "It's too vigorous. It's too much on air." Tucker Carlson was allowed to be on air for many, many years, spreading lies and disinformation to a grouping of people who have had significant impact on how this country is moving. Don Lemon, sure, he said some dumb things. There was a point in time where nobody would have accepted him as a voice of Black America or Black media. But his termination coming because he decided to stand up and have a very real conversation about the experiences of Black people is very interesting to me that those are two different things.
Ain't no half step, Marcus J live from NewDen, Legacy Net Radio. Grizzly says spot on stuff. And we getting a shout out from Gerald Gilchrist checking us out. Peace to you, Gerald. Says Xfinity cell phone store won't take cash now. So he's speaking to how what John was speaking to is not only real, but on its way to being part of our more common experience. So I appreciate you, bro. Ain't no Hastel Marcus J Live from NewDen Legacy Net Radio. I guess what I will say about these two firings, because that's what they were. We can play with the semantics of it. We can play with the words of it. We can play with what one was and all that kind of bullshit. But at the end of the day, I think that the firing of Tucker Carlson was a direct result of how much money he cost Fox News in the lawsuit that they lost because they was bold-faced lying. We all knew they was lying when they was telling those lies. When they got caught in the lies, and we have tapes and text messages and all of those things proving the lies with his name right in the middle of it, I think that even though that lawsuit went through the week before and all that kind of stuff, somebody powerful enough says, I want his ass gone. I don't care what y'all got to do. I don't care when you announce it. I don't care how this go, but for us to settle this, we're gonna settle it, but he gotta go. I'm not a legal. I guess I would ask Tamika Robinson to speak on that piece. But as a lay person who understands game, I'm pretty sure that his name got thrown under the bus with regards to all of that. And that is ultimately the reason why Tucker Carlson ended up losing his job there at Fox News. As far as Don Lemon and CNN, they've been wanting to let him go for a minute.
Yes.
And I think that he had a long list of transgressions that, depending on who you are and what level of decision making you have, Don Lemon's days were numbered at Cable News Network anyway. And he got fired the day he got fired as a direct result of Tucker Carlson getting fired, because it was almost as if the timing was like it was within, a very short amount of time. We saw Tucker Carlson, then we saw Don Lemon. It was like CNN was like, oh shit, they fired him. Let's fire Don now. So that there's gonna be some people that's gonna have some stuff to say about it, but it ain't gonna be how it could be if we fired him and there was nothing else on the back page of the newspaper. He is going to fly under the radar of the big name at our biggest competitor.
I agree with that.
And I think that's why Don Lemon got fired on the day that Don Lemon got fired. Whether he was someone that was going to get it anyway, I mean, they've been waiting for a reason. It's been a long time coming with him. This just happened to be the day he got it. And I'm convinced that he got it that day because Tucker Carlson got it that day. I don't got no science. I ain't got no inside, information and none of that kind of stuff. But I got game and I got discernment. And ain't nobody stupid with 2 O's. Well, it's some people stupid with 2 O's. Some people stupid with 3 O's. But nobody here. So that's what it is with that. Ain't no
How
half
about
stepping on
3
market.
U's?
3 U's.
Yeah. He's stupid.
Stupid. Yeah, I agree with you.
Emphasis on the you.
Yes.
You stupid.
You stupid. Stupid. Ain't no half stepping Marcus J. Live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. All right, so this is the time of the show we shift to our rants and our closes. Before we do that, we get to a moment in Black history, and we're going to look for some missing children, y'all. So this week, let's start 160 years ago, 1863, in the midst of the Civil War, Confederate Congress declares Black Union soldiers criminals and authorized their enslavement or execution. So let me get this straight. It's the middle of the Civil War.
Jeez.
And the South says the Confederate Congress, I should say, Black Union soldiers. So that's the North.
Just the North.
That's the North. So if you Black folks from the North, what does it say? Y'all criminals, and we authorize enslavement and execution. Par for the motherfucking course. Yeah.
Seriously.
100 years later, 60 years ago, 1963, more than 700 Black children protesting racial segregation in Birmingham, Alabama, are arrested, blasted by fire hoses, clubbed by police, and attacked by police dogs. Now, I'm going to speak to Moms J. Moms J would always tell me as I was coming up, because, I get my fire from her and Pops, right? Shout out to them. She would always tell me this was when the civil rights movement shifted. History taught me in my own way how to interpret. But what she would tell me as a young person, that when America saw, all of America, saw that these white people down in the South was sicking dogs and spraying fire hoses on kids,
Yes.
that's when it was like, all right, this is a little different.
I've heard that too.
This is a little different. And this is what she told me off of her eyes, off of her experience. So I want to share that. Last one we'll do today. 1992. Many of us remember 1992. This was when the LA riots. This is
Man,
the
the 90s
ashes.
were good,
This is
though.
the ashes of LA riots. We were on last week. We would have been talking about the LA riots coming up. Now we're in the ashes of it. It's a few days after it went down. In 1992, riots in Los Angeles, California, sparked by the acquittal of white police officers who beat black motorist Rodney King, end. So this is the end. And this is May 4th, 1992. This is the end of the LA riots, right? 53 people dead, 2,000 injured, and $1 billion worth of damage. LA riots
In the 90s.
in the 90s.
A
Now,
billion.
the only thing that I will say to that is earlier on, we talked about accountability. And one thing that I have never been able to reconcile is the frustration that I have always felt with certain things that have happened and how I would respond and how other people, black people, would respond by burning the neighborhood down. You don't go to the neighborhood where they at. I didn't see them in Beverly Hills and Encino and some of those white areas burning shit down. The white police officers in the white neighborhoods that you mad at for beating down Rodney King. I didn't see their neighborhoods, and I'm not asking for that to happen. I'm not saying I wanted to see that. That's not where this is going. Where this is going is when you mad about the system of white supremacy and how it had, to use a more common phrase coined by Reverend Al Sharpton, referring to George Floyd, white supremacy with its knee on our neck, our response is to burn our own shit down. Never made sense to me. Never made sense to me. Never made sense to me. And so when we talked about accountability in episodes, this is an example of how I am not okay with how we decided that we were going to respond to obvious examples of oppression. Ain't no half step. Marcus J. Live from NewDen, Legacy Internet Radio. This is where we look for our missing children. We've got two that we're looking for in Chesterfield County, my home county, and we've got one that we're looking for in Henrico County. Let's start in Chesterfield for Sarah Benace. Sarah Benace has been missing since April 19th. She is a 15-year-old black female. She stands 5 foot. She's 100 pounds. Last seen wearing a brown and cream plaid jacket, ripped black jeans, and slides. If you have seen Sarah Benace, please contact the Chesterfield County Police Department at 804-748-1251. Also missing from Chesterfield County, Amaya Cannon has been missing since over the weekend on April 29th. She's a 13-year-old black female who stands 5'3", 150 pounds. Last seen wearing a gray shirt and ripped blue jeans. If you've seen Amaya Cannon, please contact the Chesterfield County Police Department at 804-748-1251. And then also dipping across the other part of town into Henrico County, all of which of these children being a part of the Richmond, Virginia metro area, Chesterfield County being a southern and western part of it, and Henrico being a western, northern, and eastern part of the Richmond metro area. We're looking for Anna J. Smith. Anna J. Smith has been missing since April 25th. 15-year-old black female who stands 5'2", weighs 139 pounds. Anna J was last seen wearing white slippers, black jean jacket, white hat, a nose ring. Her hair is brown with red dye tips. If you've seen Anna J. Smith, please contact the Henrico County Police Department at 804-501-5000 for a better look at Anna J. Smith, for a better look at Sarah Benace, for a better look at Amaya Cannon. Please take a look at our social media pages. Ain't no half step with Marcus J, Legacy Internet Radio. I've got their missing photos there. But if you've seen them, please contact the National Center for Missing and/or Exploited Children on their website, missingkids.org, or contact them by phone at 1-800-THE-LOST, 1-800-843-5678. Amaya Cannon is who we're looking for. Sarah Bionnaise is who we're looking for. Anna J. Smith. And if I mispronounce your baby's names, please, please, please don't be mad at me. I'm just trying to find your babies. Ain't no how Steppin Marcus J live from NewDen, Legacy, Internet, Radio. So this is the part of the show where we close it out with our own rants. We close it out with our own closings. First time that John, Steph, and yours truly have been together in a few weeks. Very happy about that. I've been very clear about how this, for me, is the greatest incarnation of Ain't No How Steppin Marcus J. And I, quite frankly, I love John. And I love Steph. And I know they love me because I'm great. And so, not just because
You
I'm
are
great.
great.
Not just
And
because
we
I'm
love
great.
you.
But that's just, that's part of the reason. But, in all seriousness, I appreciate you, bro. Thank you for being you. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your leadership. Let us move the mic around the room, starting with you as we rant, as we close. What say you?
Thank you. Love you both. Appreciate you both. I feel like I am that I expand myself every time we do a show. And thank you for that, both of you. I wrestled with my rant for a while. I thought about doing it, and I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. I'm gonna speak directly to Black women. I'm gonna speak directly to Black women because I love you all, right? The most important people in my life, for the most part, have been Black women. And we have issues right now within this community with relationships and with what's going on and the way we're interacting with one another. And as a Black man, as a man, I want to just say something to the sisters that I don't think, it seems like, listening to them and watching social media and different things and different women I know. One of the biggest issues is with our relationships and what's going on is the things that society has told you all that excite men about you are not the things that excite men about you. A man does not care about most of the things for some reason y'all think that we care about. If you ask men, and you can do it, the most 9 times out of 10, the most important thing in a woman that's going to attract a man ain't her butt, darn sure ain't her job, money, car, anything. It's a smile, right? Men get locked. We get locked with a smile because it brings us a certain level of, I don't want to say peace, but it lets us lower the shield, put down the arms. It lets us feel like we're not in a fight because we feel like we're in a fight every day. When we get up, we put our feet down. We know we're going out in this world that we spoke about a lot, about, all of the, white supremacy and all this other stuff. And then within the community itself. But when we see a smile looking back at us, we go, hey, I don't got to fight right now. So think about that. Also, ladies, y'all are doing well, and it's a good thing, right? It's a wonderful thing, and y'all are doing more than what should be expected, right? However, you don't necessarily have to talk about it all the time because people know. And for those who don't know, and for people who will take advantage of it, it's not for you to tell them, it's for you to get away from them, right? So if you don't like, if you don't mesh with somebody and you don't get along with them, you don't have to prove it that they're not worthy to be with you. You don't have to prove it that you're better than the last 3 or the next 4 that they're going to be with. All you got to do is create space in between you, right? Create space in between you. And lastly, because I'm going to make this short and sweet, always measure everything against yourself, not against anybody else. Forget about what this person, this man or woman, whatever the situation is, or unidentified. I got to get the verbs right. I'm still adverbs. Forget about having an expectation of them to do anything. You know who you are. You know what you expect of yourself, right? And you know who your gut and your mind and your heart is going to tell you who you need to be around. Stop forcing the issue. If these are not your people, they're not your people. Trust me, it's some people out there that you fit with. Stop forcing the issue. Let it happen. Don't have no expectations, because expectation is the mother of disappointment. Right? You know who you are, you know how wonderful you are, you know what you're doing, you know where you need improvement. Make the adjustment for it. Be your honest self at all times. And what will happen is your energy will attract your energy. And you don't have to, everything don't got to be a fight. And that's my rant.
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio.
I'm catching it.
Oh,
I'm catching it.
Uncle, Uncle, Uncle A said.
What did he say?
Uncle A says Steph wants to respond to John. Her facial expression speaks volumes, though.
Steph,
That's why you call it.
Steph, you can tear me up if you want to. And listen, it don't even got to be your rant. I just had to speak from my heart and my mind.
Uncle H just gave away all the secrets, man. Yeah, and that's why Uncle H, real talk, the whole time, if y'all notice me, I never even looked at her.
Neither did I. But listen, Steph,
not your rant. Your face to be smiling.
Yeah,
because it makes us feel better.
Yeah,
I didn't say that.
Sir.
I didn't say me.
Because I don't got shit going on in my life. I just need to be out here smiling so you feel good.
Yeah,
but that ain't what I said. That's not what I said,
talk
Steph.
About it off air. Maybe we'll bring it up next week.
That's not what I said.
I will tell you what a female mind heard, because I'm a woman.
But that's not what I said.
But I know y'all are struggling out here, so I'm smiling.
It ain't about struggling. It's not about that. What I'm saying is what
y'all fighting a lot of battles.
No,
y'all need to
that ain't what I'm saying. No, what I'm saying is people tell y'all that, oh, it's the body, it's the face,
people
it's the
tell
money,
us
it's
to
the
smile all the time too. And the
no,
first
but
thing
it's
we
not.
say is stop fucking telling us what to do with our faces.
All I'm saying is men are more attracted to a smile than they are to a butt. That's it.
As a girl with a big butt, I will tell you, good luck with that.
I've looked at your smile much more than I looked at your butt.
You don't want to sleep with me because that's not what we do.
But
as a woman who walks around with this dunk every day of my life, I never got catcalled for my pretty smile.
Marcus, sir.
You ain't gonna help me.
Uncle H
Nah, I'm
All
not
right.
gonna help anybody.
Uncle
Brothers.
H
I'm
called me out.
Brothers,
this is what I
brothers,
would
get
say.
on your thing and tell me if I'm lying.
What I would say,
Just act
what
like
I,
it,
what
and
I,
then you
what I
won't
would
have
say
to
is
do it.
this, right? This is an example of when you call me a moderate, I am going to be the epitome of mire. I'm going to be the man speaker here, the ghost speaker, the ghost whisperer, whatever analogy that I'm butchering right now. This is where I'm going to. This is what I would say to you. I understand everything that you just said. I get it. I totally get it because I agree in spirit with what you're saying. Because I've aged myself into the point where, I've seen enough fat asses in my life where I promise you, your body will not impress me. There's no more bodies left for me to see that would impress me.
I would love to see some
They're
Instagram
they're just, they're just not.
posting a smile.
However, I think that when we as men say that to women, we're gonna always come off as disingenuous. Period. Period. Period.
But only because of what's being shown.
We can say that to each other and try to coach each other out of being so explicit in our display of joy in how she looks and try to coach each other out of not being that guy. I think that's where that comment should go. I think when we give that comment to women, we're going to always come off as disingenuous. And it's like, really, for real, when all you doing is liking pictures on Instagram of fat asses, like, dude, what are you talking about? Because me, the guy who's saying all of this, participates in posts with other men where we share pictures of the ladies with fat asses. Period. I'm that guy. I'm calling me out. Now, I understand and agree with you.
And I would love for that to be true.
I understand and agree with you on how I would much prefer to see you smiling and in a space where there's joy and glee on your face. But I, as a man, appreciate the feminine body. And I know that other men do too. So I understand where you're going. I agree with you. But I also understand how that may be received by a lady.
I'm talking about somebody who is looking to establish a romantic, meaningful relationship with someone. And I'm telling you that men, for the most part, there's hypersexualization enough to go around all day long. But I'm telling you what a guy wants to be with.
But I think
he wants to be with somebody that's happy.
The part that you missing, though, they don't want to hear that from you. They just don't want to hear that from you.
All right, so I'm just going to shut up.
No.
Shut. But it was on my mind because I'm watching it.
Not you as John. Not you as John. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I don't mean that to say they don't want to hear that from you as John. I'm saying that it's difficult from a woman to hear that from a man because what we show them is us sharing pictures of fat asses on Instagram. That's what they see us doing. So they cannot receive how sincere you are when you say that and how sincere I am when I receive it and agree with you. It's difficult for
there's
them.
There's a difference in swiping through online and having a relationship, a meaningful relationship with somebody. There's a big difference.
Yes,
we understand that.
There's a big
we've been
difference.
telling y'all that. We
it.
get it.
What I'm telling you, men get it too, but
they act like it.
So,
period.
That's all I'm saying to you is the part
as a girl
that
with the cute diastema, I've had this gap tooth smile my whole life. I could have gotten it fixed with with braces and everything else, but there are women on my mother's entire side of the family that have always had diastema, so I will not fix my gap because it's cute. That's not what men are complimenting me on, and I'm going to speak as the person with the vagina in the room. I literally
lead into your rant from here.
I literally have lived in a space of where when I do get a compliment on my smile, I was sexualized for it. I literally was told when I was 12 years old, shorty, yo, that guy, blase, blah, blah, blah. And some things have been said to me. So let me get it how I live it. If you give me the truth, if that's the truth you're giving me, that's the truth I'll accept. But if I go through your phone and there ain't no pretty girls just smiling, and all the girls are showing the backward smile, the one with the T back, sorry, ain't working. So, but I appreciate I would, and listen, you could compliment my smile all day long, John. Thank you. But you know what? Let's reverse Steve Harvey this and give the recommendations to the fellas that need it and not the ladies that are looking for it. Because we already would love to be accepted for our smiles. Because I know this dunk may not look like this in 10 years, and I want you to accept that I come with the education that I'm not supposed to talk about, and I come with the ability to communicate with you in a way that I'm not supposed to talk about, and I might also be able to lead the household and help us all, but I ain't supposed to talk about that either. So anyway, down to my rant, and I still love you, but that's just the truth. You might be different on this one, bruh, but you might want to educate your brothers. Do a reverse Steve Harvey, write a book about how to act like a better man, not how to accept things as a woman, because we are experiencing our lives as we live it. Now, my rant tonight is about sacrifice. Uncle H, I'm mad at you for calling me out because now you put me in this position. I gotta come back with these brothers next Monday. You know I love them, but I got sometimes say they got represent for my people with the smiles out there. But I still love you, John, because I will say this. I do believe that John loves women for things outside of that, because I've experienced that with you in a platonic way. So I do believe that about you. I just think you want your brotherhood to be better than what some of them are.
I think they're fronting. I think okay, for the guys, stop fronting and be real with yourself so that these women could possibly be real with y'all. Because when we talk amongst ourselves behind closed doors, and the contents, what led me to make this statement that I said, I know what I'm saying is fact. I know what men value,
Then
and
talk
they
to the
value
brothers.
that
They need to
smile
hear
much
it.
more. So, fellas, the ladies need to know it.
Yeah. Yes.
Walk it like you talk it.
Yes. Because I'm too grown to be on Instagram with my backside out. I can't do it I can't do it. And I didn't grow up in the generation that did it. But I think a lot of our young girls would change their approach if young brothers didn't make that the thing that they've said they value them on. So I agree. And thank you for being willing to hear that. My rant tonight is really not a rant. It is something meant to bring attention to a word called sacrifice. And I think sometimes when we, as parents, those of us, all three of us in the room are parents, we have sacrificed things for children many, 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 many times over that they may not realize. I remember having a conversation with one of my beloved children, and that child telling me, well, I didn't ask to be here. You brought me here. Not realizing, part of the language, that mom could have visited the chop shop, but I did not. I allowed you to be present. And that is sacrifice at 19 years old, especially when you do it the right way. So this week on Tuesday, Carolyn Bryant Dunham died. She was the person who was the impetus, the creation, the beginning of the death of Emmett Till. She was the person who created this. This is often why I say, while we talk about white supremacy and we only focus on white men, white women are the water bearers for white supremacy. I have white girlfriends. I'd say it right to their face. It helps them. It protects them. It provides for them. It stabilizes. It nurtures. It creates a space in which they can live comfortably and happy. They get the soft life that so many Black women want, simply because white supremacy has provided that. It's hard to divest from something that makes you so secure. And this week, may she never experience a moment of eternal peace. Carolyn Bryant Dunham died and never faced a moment of real condemnation and ownership of what she did in ending the life of young Emmett Till, who was 14 years old and had to be terrified when facing his death at the hands of two adult white males. And his mother went into immediate sacrifice. That means giving things up. That means putting yourself in a position of almost being killed yourself. That means hiding. That means showing up in court and staring down the men who did this to her child. That means sacrificing all peace for the rest of her life. This lady died fighting with her son's name on her lips. This lady did not get to go back into anonymity and live peacefully. She lived the rest of her life as a sacrifice to her son, Emmett Till. So when I talk about personal accountability, and I speak about it from the statement or a position of being a Black woman, a Black mother, a Black woman who loves Black men, has been married to one, has dated others, a Black woman who sits in a space with other Black men on a regular basis, and a Black woman who is the mother of a Black woman, a young Black woman. I think it's important for you to realize what it takes to make the level of sacrifice necessary to remember a child the way that she did, to see a child the way that she did, to expose her child the way that she did. When I talk about sacrifice, when I talk about responsibility today, personal accountability, this is the sacrifice that we must all make. When we make decisions to lay down with one another and we haven't decided, we have never had the conversation about what kind of parent you want to be, or if you want to be a parent, or if you had a good relationship with your parent, because that doesn't matter. We just want to have sex. And then we birth children into these environments and we leave them exposed to the negativity of our communities. We just had shootings last week at a school, a high school here. It killed young girls. And we walk away with no personal accountability. We're supposed to talk about white folk. We're not supposed to talk about white folk. We're supposed to talk about the sacrifice we make within our community to be better, to experience better, to do more, to send our children to college, to make sure that our elders are not hurt by the children that we are breeding, to make sure that we teach our young boys not to use terms like female, which is an adjective, not a noun, to address young women properly, to address their elders properly, to talk to our young girls about the fact that, yes, you can be body and sex positive, but you cannot be shocked when he only wants that, uses that, and walks away from it if that was all you offered. There is a sacrifice that has to be made the minute you decide to become someone's parent. When I look at our community now, when I think about the fact that I was watching a show the other day and there was a woman talking about offering a young man a ride because he looked lost and helpless. He was 14. He got in her vehicle and then held her at gunpoint, threatening to rape her, tried to get her to drive to a location. This was one of ours with one of theirs. He ended up shooting her in the head. And then every household in the community got a knock on the door because everyone's looking for the Black boy that did this. And now every Black boy is the same. There is a reason to make a sacrifice and say that we hold each other personally accountable for the things that we do and do not do. All of your children are not kings. Many of your sons are not behaving that way. All of your daughters are not queens. They are not behaving that way because they are following you. They are following you. I'm not perfect. I'm not offering the solution of perfection. What I'm offering is the solution of sacrifice. At 19 years old, I became a parent for the first time. At almost 21, I became a parent for the second time. And I literally sacrificed everything, meaning hanging out, going out with my college friends, cheering, being anything other than a wife and a mother. I committed to the household that I was in with the man that I was with, and we became parents to these children. And we risked everything that was self-centered to sacrifice for the sake of these children living a better life. I understood that by my 30s, I would be an empty nester. I'd have plenty of time to play this game of life as an individual. The sacrifice needed to be made. Many of us are not sacrificing. We're not engaging in sacrifice. Instead, what we're doing is looking at the community and saying, you're hurting my child. Don't speak to my child. I know Black women that go to school as school teachers every day. And if they correct a child, they have to worry about the mother showing up for a fight or an argument. That is a lack of parental sacrifice. I think about how many of us, how many children, the new generation, will not have real grandmothers. And when I say real grandmothers, I'm talking about the one I experienced that sacrificed everything to raise me when my parents did not do what they should do. It's sacrifice. I think about the aunties who didn't have children but showed up at school board meetings to stand up against the people who wanted to do something to children that were not theirs. That's sacrifice. I think about the men who step in, they start after school programs, they start basketball clinics, they are speaking, they start radio stations, they talk about financial accountability. That is sacrifice. They don't have to care about you. So when I think of personal accountability, this is not me saying that the white community doesn't have their dirty demons. We know they do. We know that they've created some of those things. This is me saying that there is an opportunity to change the level of sound on the bandwidth and get rid of the static that we're living within in our communities. And we are not sacrificing enough. Sacrificing is no longer, I gave up a paycheck to buy you Jordans. Sacrificing is, I now will leave work tired and show up at the school board meeting and have this conversation because you will not treat my children a certain way. Sacrificing is letting your children know that they are not always right. We are no longer in the era of sacrifice. We are in the era of self-centeredness. We're not angry that someone is chastising our children. We're angry that someone may be calling us a bad parent. Some of us are. We're not angry that someone is saying you're not being a good husband. We're angry that someone is acknowledging that you're not. Some of you are not. So today I challenge you. I challenge our community because that is what matters to me most. Some communities don't have to make the sacrifice. They can rise above what my aunt from Trinidad calls the moxie cheese, the mold of it all. They can rise above it and live above it. We can't afford to. We have to sacrifice. And sometimes it means cutting off that moldy corner of the cheese so we all eat well. So I challenge you today, make the sacrifice. Be the Mamie in your community. Be the grandmother that people did not see or people had in the past. And acknowledge that sacrifice requires a level of personal accountability and internal observation of who we are and what we are or are not doing and moving things forward. Without the sacrifice, we sit in the same space in 2023, but worse than we sat in 2000. And that's my rant.
Ain't no half stepping. With Marcus J. live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. Thank you, John. And thank you, Steph, for an outstanding show. You know, as I said early on, when you're in it, you can feel it. And I'm feeling it tonight. And we were hitting on all cylinders tonight. So I appreciate you guys for being a part of this machine. And I enjoy doing it. And then as long as I do, I'm going to keep on doing it. So, Aint hashtag Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy and that radio. It's the time for me to shift into my own rant and into my own closing. And I've gotten very creative with these over the years. I used to write them down. I could show you the file that I would have, and I would labor and I would write and journal, write, make sure and make corrections and do it throughout the day and all that kind of stuff. And you know, that's what I did in those days, and that's the way it was, and it was important to me then. Whereas now, I prefer more freestyle fare with regards to it. I have an idea of what I want to talk about, like I do tonight. I have had an idea, and it was shifting. It was going in multi directions. I had a couple of different things that I might actually settle on, and I ended up settling on this because of what we talked about in Stephasos with regards to accountability. Accountability for us as people, as Americans, more specifically accountability for us as Black people, which leads me to someone who has recently passed away, who I personally was very, very fond of, who many people in our community had very, very mixed feelings about, and that person was Jerry Springer. I had yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could talk about I could talk about Harry Belafonte, and that's great. I don't want to do that because this great man has been eulogized by so many that I don't know that I could do him the justice that he deserves. And so, in the interest of respect for him and the fact that you all mentioned, John, you mentioned him, and Steph, you co-signed it. Obviously Harry Belafonte is a great man, but I want to talk about Jerry Springer. And the reason why I want to talk about Jerry Springer is I remember when he had a respectable show. I remember when his show was very Phil Donahue-esque, where he talked about politics and he talked about issues and all those types of things. At the time, I was a young person. I didn't realize he was a former mayor of Cincinnati. And I suppose even if had known at the time, it wouldn't have mattered. I wouldn't have cared that he used to be the mayor. He just used to be a mayor. So what? But when we talked about accountability, that's what solidified my desire to have this conversation and talk about him, because there are a lot of those folks, a lot of our folks who are not wanting to be respectful in his passing because of the type of show that he had that highlighted the, shall we say, less respectable parts of some of our communities. Black folks exploiting us, exploiting the parts of our communities that maybe we whisper about amongst us. It was on full display on his show with the fighting and with the infidelity and with the uh, clear displays of lack of intelligence that was on his show, and he was the ringmaster. But I always thought it was cool because he was in on a joke, because to me it was one. I think that a lot of our people, Black people, have the kind of memory here that is short-sighted, because everybody was on that show. Wasn't just Black folks on that show. Everybody was on that show, and it was pure nonsense. It was nonsense. But every single person who went on there had an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I don't need to represent myself that way. Even if they had a story that might have been worthy, air quotes, of exploitation. You had a choice. You had an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to embarrass my mama. I'm not going to embarrass my grandmama. I'm not going to embarrass my daddy. I'm not going to embarrass my children, so that when they see this years from now, seeing me fight, these people had a choice. You can blame Jerry. There are a lot of us that's doing that right now. They're blaming Jerry, and that's cool if you want to do that. I'm choosing not to do that because I understood what he was doing. He had a TV show. He had people that was willing to come on there and say crazy shit. Why wouldn't you? Let's get it. But how I knew he was in on the joke is at the end of every show, he did something. And what he did, I took and I made a part of this show. The rants and the closings are loosely based on Jerry's Final Thought, where he would analyze what was just seen, what was just said, and the theatrics that went with it. And he always found a way in a very direct, poignant, spot on way to address the lunacy. And he always left you with, until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Always thought that was cool. Told me he got it. Told me he was about his money. You can't blame somebody that's about their money when you about to go in there and make an ass of yourself. Can't blame that dude when you don't have what? Accountability. That's the Murr. Marcus's unrelated rant. Nothing to do. Well, yeah, that had a lot to do. When I say nothing to do in the rant part, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But that's the tagline. So I'm going to say it anyway. Got nothing to do with what we're here talking about tonight. It's the end of the show. I want to remind everybody that independence is the key to building your legacy. I also want to say peace to all of the stars and all of the squares and the abundance of water, the fools is thirsty. Those were the words of Bob Marley, who you were hearing singing in the background. I want you to remember that authenticity has no competition. I also want you to be blessed. I also want you to give grace. Most importantly, I need you to keep it 100. We are celebrating 11 years of live podcasting and internet radio. Shout out to all of our alumni. Shout out to everybody that listened and watched tonight. And shout out to that man and that woman. Because of them, I'm still here. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Ain't no high step with Marcus J live from NewDen of Legacy and Radio. Will return real soon. Peace, y'all. Holla at your family.
Oh, yeah. I'm with this, with it. I'm just gonna lay back and I'ma drop some smooth lyrics. So tune in 7 to 9:30 and don't be late. About to set it straight. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Word. I'm ready, let's go. Ain't no half stepping, that's the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters talk sprinkle with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With you flowing this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk, running back. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk. Steppin' is the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters talk sprinkle with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With you flowing this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk.